Call this meeting to order. Ask you please to rise for the invocation and remain standing for the pledge of flag. Father, we thank you for this another opportunity to come together as a board for this great county and to conduct the business that has been entrusted to us by the citizens. We pray for your guidance and your wisdom in all things that we deliberate this evening. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Item number 2 under planning board presentations is the one that I wish to have removed.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. That's the only change that I ask for your consideration that I know about, unless there's something else. I would consider a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented with the only change to remove item number 2 of the planning board section for sketch plan.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Next item is consideration to approve the minutes for the February 3rd, 2015 Commissioners meeting. Happy that Commissioner Loper is able to join us again. He's feeling better.
Not looking any better.
You're not looking any better, that's correct. Well, I know you weren't here, so. Any corrections or additions to the minute? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
So, motion and a second to approve February 3rd, 2015 Commissioners' minutes as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Commissioner Loper is abstaining because of his absence. Other than that, motion carries. Next item is the consideration to approve corrected minutes for the January 20th, 2015 Commissioners meeting. Before you, you will see that our attorneys, in doing some other work, determined that the minutes actually showed that Mr. Eric Cockrell was in attendance for that meeting. And in fact, it was Elizabeth who was here. So, other than that, the minutes stay the same. So, I'll ask for your consideration and a motion to approve that corrected minute.
Make a motion to approve corrected minutes as stated.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. It should be noted that public comment should be limited to our agenda items only. The documents from this meeting, as are all meetings, are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. We have a presentation scheduled for 5:15. Are y'all ready at this time?
Laura, are you ready?
If you are, we'll move forward on that. If not, we'll do something else.
Maybe just a couple more minutes.
All right. Consent agenda is our next item while we're waiting on that. 2 items. First item is consideration to approve sanitation releases as submitted by the sanitation department. Second item is consideration to approve a fire release as submitted by the fire department. Without correction, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion and a second to approve as read. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. All right, Jennifer. It's either now or the old business items. For the record, it should be noticed that these were presented earlier on December the 9th, 2014, and it was asked to be tabled time specific to tonight. This was originally presented as a planning board for presentation. When all parties, as I understand, has been made aware of this time to hear this, and all parties that's involved in this decision is present and wish to move forward at this time. First item, Planning Board recommends denying an application by Willard Armstead for a variance to create a fourth lot off of an easement located at 1575 Union Springs Road, map number 457, parcel number 24, in the 3rd District. Without objection, these are all tied to the same issue. Can we hear these together? Or do they need to be heard separately for some reason?
One depends on the other.
What's the attorney's advice?
I think they need to be voted on separately, but you could, it's ultimately the discussion's going to be the same for both of them, so you could consider them together to vote separately.
Okay. We'll vote on them separately. We'll discuss them together. Is that good for everybody? All right. It is a public hearing. Does staff have anything that they wish to say as an opening to this?
No, sir. George fixed a great week. He's going training.
Our county administrator is wearing the clerk's hat. Stephanie's at training today in Athens.
George is in Macon.
Huh?
George is in Macon.
George is in Macon.
Chairman, for the other parties present, but I would say, if nothing else, I would just give a small background about it as a variance request and give a general detail.
I can do that if you want, just a
For
general
the
meeting.
other people present, I would do that.
Yeah, it's a variance request to subdivide 2 acres from a tract for the purpose of a home being built on it. The tract of land that they're proposing to subdivide the 2 acres from is access via a 20-foot access easement. There would then be a 60-foot access easement across this tract to the 2 acres. Our ordinance allows 3 lots to be served by a 60-foot access easement unimproved. There are already 3 lots. I believe this will create the 4th, and it's a 20-foot easement rather than aside from the 60. That's the gist of the request, I think.
All right. I think we have all of the necessary plats and all before us.
Just a couple minutes.
Okay. Who wishes to speak for this? As I understand, the planning board voted to deny the motion, or deny the variance.
I'll speak for it.
Come forward, speak your name for the record, please.
Jerry Onsdorf, or legally Willard Onsdorf. And my family settled in Effingham County in 1735. So I know, and we know, the significance of old family land. And the only request we have is that we want a variance where my son can build his home on our land. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak for? Against?
Mr. Chairman, other members of the commission, my name is Steve Rushing. I'm an attorney over in Statesboro. I've done some work in the past for Mr. Grady Ron. He is my client tonight. He is also present, along with his family members. He and his family do oppose Mr. Arndorf's application for variance and for the rezone of his proposed 2-acre parcel. Mr. Ron actually owns the property containing about 30 acres located right next to Mr. Arnsdorf's, which is his 56 acres. As out of that 56 acres, I think he's looking to create this 2-acre parcel. Mr. Ron also owns the 117-acre tract that fronts on Union Springs Road. So the access to Mr. Arnsdorf's property is via the 20-foot access easement that was mentioned, which travels over both of Mr. Ron's tracts of land. Now there's also another tract of land in between Mr. Ron's 2 tracts, which is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Kessler. I'm not sure if it's any relation to Mr. Chairman, but distant. Well, I understand. Unfortunately, they were not able to be with us tonight. I think they've experienced some medical illness, but their sons are here, and the grandson is here also representing that middle parcel. And they too also oppose the variance and the rezone application by Mr. Arnsdorf, as this same easement traverses their tract of land also. Now, when Mr. Arnsdorf purchased his 56-acre parcel of land from the Bank of Newington in 2013, he of course knew that it was in an AR1 zone, -1 zone, in a predominantly agricultural area. He also knew that this property did not front on a public road. In fact, it lies 3,192 feet thereabouts from the road, or about 6/10 of a mile. So he sought and he obtained this 20-foot access easement from my client, Mr. Ron, and from the Kesslers back in June of 2013, which was about the same time that he purchased his property. Mr. Arnsdorf informed Mr. Ron of his intent to build a single-family house on the property. Though Mr. Ron agreed to grant Mr. Arnsdorf the easement, he intentionally restricted it to 20 feet in width so that it would not and could not become a road that could be used by others that would be traversing his property. This allowed Mr. Arnsdorf's access to his house, but retained the general agricultural nature of the property. But now, just over a year later, Mr. Arnsdorf is seeking to change those rules and to add another lot with another dwelling, which must also use the same easement that was granted by Mr. Ron and Mr. and Ms. Kessler, and to permit him to do so would circumvent the intentional restriction that Mr. Ron and the Kesslers placed on the easement with its 20-foot width across their property. Now, according to the county's ordinance, the addition of a 4th lot requires certain improvements, including a road to county specifications, which obviously cannot be done with just a 20-foot private easement. Thus, Mr. Arnsdorf seeks this variance. As you know, the granting of a variance is governed by Section 9.1, where it states that the Board of Commissioners shall not grant such variances unless it finds, based on the evidence presented to it in each specific case. Then it lists 4 things, and those things are all connected by the word "and," meaning that all 4 things must be found by this board. The first one, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to public safety, health, or welfare, or injurious to other property. And I submit that an easement by its very nature is injurious to other property. In legal terms, the property over which an easement traverses is called the burdened property. That's because it is burdened by other persons who are not the owner, who will travel over and use that property. Adding another lot and a house, of course, adds another family and their guests that would be using this easement. I'm not certain whether emergency vehicles would be traveling over a private easement, but if they could, that would even be more of a burden. So it would seem clear that to allow more vehicular traffic over the property of my client is necessarily injurious to his property, an injury that he thought he was preventing when he put the 20-foot limitation on its width. But Section 9 continues at letter B. The conditions upon which the request is based are unique to the property for which the relief is sought and are not applicable generally to other property. I'm not really sure about the other property, but I do understand that there are perhaps some other minor subdivisions which have gained their access through easements, which have experienced some problems for their property owners who are using the easement. And those problems have also been brought before the county. I think maybe Hidden Lake or perhaps another on Laurel Tree Road might have been ones that perhaps used easements that led to some problems. But this leads us on to section C of section 9. Because of the particular physical surroundings, shape, or topographical conditions of the specific property involved, a particular hardship to the owner would result as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of these regulations is carried out. We submit that this variance request has nothing to do with the physical surrounding shape or the topography of Mr. Arnsdorf's property. Rather, he seeks to create a new lot, a fourth lot where one does not presently exist, where the only access is a 20-foot private easement. A fact that, of course, he knew when he purchased the property. Now, certainly, I can understand that he would like to have his son to live on this 2-acre lot closer to he and his wife. But yes, that would be more convenient, but that is not the hardship that is anticipated by this ordinance. And even if it were one, it is not one of the conditions provided in the ordinance. The Supreme Court of Georgia has made it clear also that the mere inconvenience does not constitute hardship to justify a variance. That was a DeKalb County v. Lipinski case. It is not physical surroundings, shape, or topographical conditions that is preventing Mr. Arnsdorf from being able to comply with the regulations. It's the 20-foot access easement agreement that he entered into with my client, Mr. Ryan, and the Kesslers back in June that cannot now be converted into a 60-foot road to county specs. Section 9.1D, the last one. The relief sought will not in any manner vary the provisions of the zoning ordinance or comprehensive plan, except those documents may be amended in the manner prescribed by law. As you know, the variance request is coupled with this rezoning request, which would necessarily seek to vary the zoning ordinance. Though I will address in a moment that the rezoning request is likewise not supported by the standards provided in the county ordinance. And I know we're trying to address both of these kind of at the same public hearing, but they are different standards, so I'll address those standards separately. The comprehensive plan has this area as agricultural. This request certainly is in contradiction of the comprehensive plan. Each of these provisions under section 9.1 again are connected by the word "and," which means you must find that all four apply in order to grant the variance. We submit that none of the four will support the variance request. The additional lot and home using the same easement over my client's property is injurious to their property, and that alone will not support a variance. But in addition, to have his son on a lot next to his would be more convenient, but it's not a hardship as described in the ordinance. This variance request seeks to vary the zoning and the comprehensive plan. And again, it's just not one of the four that must apply to support a variance, but rather all must apply, and that's just not the case here. The Planning Commission made this same analysis and has recommended denial, and we submit that they got it right. Furthermore, to grant the variance would not only disregard the four prescribed basis for a variance, it would necessarily transfer the road improvement requirement onto the next applicant seeking to convey a subdivided parcel to his family member, or perhaps to the next one. Where does it end? The ordinance has it after 3. The ordinance makes it clear that after 3 lots, it makes a major subdivision which requires all these improvements, including a 60-foot right-of-way, improvements to the road, community water supply, and all these other requirements. If you waive these requirements this time, when do you not waive? What if someone else desires to do that? So if not for just this reason, but for the 4 prescribed requirements that do not support this variance, we therefore respectfully request that you accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and deny the request for a variance. Would you like me to address the zoning matter at this time now as well?
Well, when does it get get past the other one, it becomes a moot point.
Well, perhaps so, yes, sir.
What were the conditions under which the 20-foot easement was granted?
That was, we believe to be wide enough to permit, you know, a regular vehicle, Mr. Arnsdorf's regular vehicle, to go back into, but by restricting it to 20 foot, we knew that it could not be converted into a public road, and therefore, you know, they weren't trying to create a road across their property. They were trying to assist Mr. Arnsdorf by giving him access. So the 20-foot restriction allowed him the ability to do that, but preventing it from becoming a road later. That was the intent.
Was that thinking point addressed in the easement itself?
I don't know that it gave the basis for the easement. We did not draw that easement up.
Which came first, the purchase of the property from the Arnsdorfs or the easement?
It was about the same time. So as far as which one got recorded first, I think I have a copy of them, but they were recorded at the same time, is what I understand. Like one right after the other.
Somewhere, I thought it was in a public meeting that I heard that the purchase happened, and then that necessitated them giving an easement. Is that how that worked or not? Were they negotiating the easement like they all understood they had to negotiate it first, and it was negotiated as part of the sale? Is that what's being said? I'm trying to understand the actual facts of how the easement was negotiated.
Yeah, I believe.
Rest, or was it not, or, you know, there's other factors in that.
Well, you know, I look back to Mr. Grady. Do you know if the property had been purchased when Mr. Arnsdorf first approached you?
The property was purchased before we were going to do it.
Okay. So, you being a lawyer, because I haven't addressed even that question, that I know that was something that I had heard in the public meeting. How did that occur? Would that be a legal occurrence? It's my understanding in the state of Georgia, you can't have
landlocked property.
You have to have some type of access to it.
That's
So the fact that it was purchased in a landlocked manner, what kind of situation did that create? And did it create a burden on either party for duress?
That's a good question. No, what it created, and was perhaps created long ago when the 56-acre tract was first formed, there is an implied easement when property does not connect to the road. It would have been the one that, if you go back far enough in the title, who actually split up the larger tract into pieces. When they created a tract that did not front on the public road, if they did not create an express easement, then an implied easement is created by the law, and generally an implied easement is 20 foot in width.
Okay.
Generally, an implied easement is 20 foot.
Correct.
That's just always accepted, or how does it become generally accepted?
Through the case law, other folks that have had easements by that nature, it's generally considered just wide enough to be reasonable to gain access. And that has just been with the, you know, I guess it started back when wagons and stuff and horses were used. That was generally considered wide enough to gain access, so the law has kind of followed that to say basically 20 feet.
Because one of the things that I had not asked the Arnsdorfs is this question, I don't know the answer, so, and I know also sometimes ignorance of the law doesn't matter, I get that too, but I did wonder, at whatever time they purchased the land, and at the time they negotiated the easement, did they have any understanding at all? That's why I asked if it was in the easement. Did they have an understanding that they were buying that many acres that they could not give, or that there would be a prohibition of some sort where they couldn't give land to their children? I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
but in some of the ways it was addressed, you know, if that was the intent of the easement, it would have been great if that would have been stated in the easement, and then we wouldn't be here today trying to decide these type of issues with an easement that they granted. Because I just personally have a problem with a local government or a state government or a federal government prohibiting an individual from giving property to their children. So I've been trying to understand all
I don't think there is such a prohibition.
Well, I understand that before it goes away.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
But however, you know, you have made a compelling argument as an attorney of our own ordinance as to what we, by our ordinance, are allowed to grant a variance for.
Yes, sir.
Well, I
It's
call
the first time I've really had it put to me this way.
I called Eric before, about an hour before I got here, and I talked to Elizabeth as soon as I got here, asking these questions about, in relation to what their position was. That's the first time I really talked to them as well about the scenario. I know that there has been another attorney that stated an opinion just because they were asked the question and thought we were within our power to do so. But I asked them with regard to our own policy, one, do we have the authority to give a variance of a variance? In other words, if it's not in the variance, can we still, according to our home rule authority, can we still have position to do that? And
I don't believe that would be supported in the law to vary it outside of what your stated.
well, that's a critical question, but they have said otherwise to.
Well, I don't believe that you're giving a variance of a variance.
Okay.
You'd be granting a variance to the 60-foot easement requirement. It wouldn't necessarily be a variance of another already granted variance.
Because basically it's your position that we are meeting the requirement, the criteria in the variance?
That's up to the board. We think that you are able to grant the variance if the board chooses to, but whether you all feel that there's been enough evidence to support it, that's not really a legal question, it's more of a factual question for the board of commissioners.
Well, and to some of your points when you stated them, I was trying to, because one of the points that they said was, as an example, there has to be conditions that would be different, that would necessitate it. And one of the things that they had talked to us about was one of the conditions that would necessitate it or make it different than other property is what does surround this property is the river, and what other way do they have to gain access to give a piece of property to their family member. It appears there is no other way, so that is different than other scenarios. Also, whether an easement, you mentioned just giving an easement in itself is injurious.
Injurious, yes.
Injurious?
I think I've got that right.
They gave the easement, so there was an injury on that level that's occurred, and then again the particular surroundings. So I know it's there's two strong sides to it, and it's a hard decision, but
I understand, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rushing, would
Yes, sir.
you agree that this board filed everything that you outlined? We could not grant this. We could then have our public hearings. We could change our ordinance to allow for 4, and then come back and he would be within our ordinance and we would be totally within our rights. Number one. Number two, they can build a second structure by our present ordinances. They just can't subdivide it.
I believe that's correct.
They could build that, and let's just say through the passage of time, I'm not going to call him Elder Orange. Oh, your hearing's still pretty good. But if they were to do that, then it's my understanding that the courts, the probate court, has the power then to circumvent our ordinance that's on our books, and they could then cut a line through the property and create another tract of land, and we would have no control of it.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think they can just, create a new tract of land around and circumvent the county ordinance. It's not legal.
If Jerry was deceased, if the second structure was in his and through the will process that this was deeded, I have legal opinion that that the probate court could do that. And you would wind up going a long way around what's trying to be done today.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the probate court, which does have jurisdiction to probate wills, I don't think they would have jurisdiction to create new tracts of land where it does not presently exist. I think that gets beyond their jurisdiction.
But if they built a second residence there and then he would pass away, you'd still have someone living there that didn't have a legal, they'd be landlocked.
Well, I've got a home right next to mine, in fact, that has 2 houses on it, and they call one of them the mother-in-law house, I guess, on the same tract of land. Again, they just may not be able to divide that. They have two houses on one piece of land, and they can, I guess, have 2 different folks in there, the mother-in-law or whatever, but They will not be able to, the probate court certainly come in there and create a new tract of land. And I think they would have to go through the county processes there just as they would here.
I think I understand what Commissioner Jones is saying, and I think I would have to echo that. But I have a problem with people not being able to do what they, be able to give their child a piece of property to build a home on. And I'm not going to put the Rons or Caspers on the spot as to what would they want done for them if the roles were reversed, but because I know this is old family property, or I think I'm correct in that. Correct, Grady?
Yeah, if I took that one extra course, you're right, if that were to occur, and I kind of alluded to that in my comments, that should this commission grant this variance and they not have to go through the, and then later on in front of another commission, should Grady come up here and ask, it could be denied, and we've thrown all that requirement onto him, where, you know, right now that ordinance has clearly made it 3 lots, and that's the way it was when clearly they all acquired their property. And so I think that could be a problem, that it falls on somebody else, that it's not intended.
The Arnsdorf's in a different position in that they have no other way to access their property or to give property to their children, wherein some of the other owners do have other ways that they can give access. They have other abilities that do not present themselves because of the way that piece of property is situated.
Well, I think, you know, you've just got one track that's on the road.
There's other landowners away that it's easy enough to access.
Yeah,
On
there's
both sides.
And then you got the other adjoining landowners.
Well, I'm not going to get into a lot of talking. If you got something to say, I want it on the record, and I need you to come up here.
Okay.
State your name and tell me what you got to say. We can't pick it up on recording.
My name is Corey Kessler. There's other landowners on both sides of Mr. Arnsdorf. I don't know if he's approached them about getting the easement through their property. He does have other access.
Just for information, the reason this ordinance was created to start with, excuse me, years ago, Effingham County started out with mini farms, 5 acres. These developers would come in and buy large tracts of land, and they would divide it up into 5-acre lots. Well, they had a road pushed in there, and the county let them do that. Well, years later, the road started getting messed up, and what happened? Guess who had to fix the roads? So the county came up with this. After that you could build, if you had a family member, and you could get up to 3 houses on an unimproved 6-foot easement in Effingham County. 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago, they changed that and just opened up to anybody, because people would come up in and say, well, I got a sister-in-law that wants to build a house back here, so we give them permission to build a house. I said, well, you're making liars out of the people of Effingham County. Just put it 3 houses on an unimproved 6-foot easement in Effingham County, and that's what it's been since that point in time, 9 or 10 years ago. So if you do anything with this, if you give any variance to this, what we have on the books now, you could do away with it all, but you'd go back to what was happening 15 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And that is the purpose of it. And there's other ways. If you get a 6-foot easement, it does not have to be paved. It could be a county-maintained dirt road, which we just okayed one from Mr. Grady in a subdivision, a dirt road, and they could get one in there, but it's got to be a 6-foot easement, and the county has got to accept it. Then they can build, you can build 50 houses on that 55 acres.
How did y'all come up with the number 3? That's over half a mile long.
That was before my time.
Okay.
I had it changed to where 3 people could build on a 6-foot easement to keep people from coming up in line to the commissioners about it.
Well, the variance that we approved a few months back on the Haddon Lake Road, how wide is that road? Anybody know?
I don't believe there is an easement. I think that's part of the problem.
Same scenario
Did
as
approve
this?
that variance.
Because you seconded that motion.
But it was not, she was gonna give her son some land,
Right.
he was not gonna build a house on it.
Yeah.
And they were not going through anybody else's property, it was through her property.
He has the legal ability now that he has been given the land to build a house on it.
But it was, all of it was on her land, he was not crossing anybody else's land. It was on the Half Lake Road, which there's 25 houses down there already.
And that's the problem,
And that's-
does it stay in the same person's?
We're going to
Name
continue to
forever.
have this as family members pass and these large tracts of land break down. Their siblings inherit, grandchildren inherit, and they have a right to.
All you gotta do is make a 6-foot easement. That's all you gotta have. And you can do anything you want with your land. You're not constricting anybody on their land. Mr. Orange, if he wants to buy a 6-foot easement, go down there and get somebody with a motor grader to grade it up and turn it over to the county. It's a county maintained road, dirt road, and he can sell 55 lots down there.
Their attorney just stated that they held it to a 20-foot so that he could not.
We don't have nothing on the books on a 20-foot easement.
So that he could not have any other use. He stated that.
We don't have anything on the 20-foot easement on the county ordinance. 60-foot is the magic number.
You said if he bought, is there an option out there to purchase a 60-foot easement? Is that been presented?
I don't know about that.
No, I'm just asking.
I'm just telling you what could be done anyway.
I offered to buy the land from Grady. He said he wasn't selling any dirt.
Well, that's his.
So I didn't know. Man, I tell you, I never got into this. I had this land that my family had since 1735. My wife got cancer, and when Aaron Brockovich came here with the Geechee River, I'll tell you the whole history. If we get into all this history now.
Get on the record if you will.
Come on up here.
On what?
And Mr. Mike, please.
Okay. All right. So when when the county commissioners sold the Georgia Pacific, everything was changed. They put wetland stuff, whatever they wanted to do. I was back there with my little 57 acres, and I sit there and I was happy, and I dealt with them until Aaron Brockovich came here. When the county got her to come, the river keeper got her to come with the Geechee River, and I met with her. And she told me what caused this cancer. She had a doctor's wife there that was with her on her committee, and she said, you got little children, you need to get out. I wouldn't have got out of there for nothing. They think this land is something, you ought to go there and look at what I left. And I didn't want to come, but I had to do it. So I come up and I asked, it was a road through there. I tried to buy the land from HB. It ain't my fault that HB lost the land. And I didn't try to buy it without, I didn't go up there and bid on it. They was right there when the bidding came. Jason could have bought the land if he wanted it. I didn't bid it, and then the banker told me, he said, I'm gonna get, this land's worth more than $300,000 what he owes. And I said, yes, sir. And I said, I don't want to inconvenience nobody. I'm going to get the money out of mine, and I want him to get, he said, I'm going to bid on this for this land, and this is what it's worth. And so I waited, and he called me and said, you can start moving up there. I didn't have the money to buy it. I hadn't sold my land, but somebody was looking out for me. But anyway, I got with Georgia Pacific, I sold my land, I bought this land, and I come up there, I let Grady feed his cows for 3 months, 100 and some cows. They still water, they drinking water out of my water today. I tried my best to be a good neighbor, and that's all I could do. When I come up here tonight, I said this was all I was gonna say, that I just done a beer. Well, this guy's talking stuff that I don't know where this lawyer came from. I didn't have any idea when to start this that we was going to have a lawyer. But I know.
I understand all that.
Okay, well I know, let me tell you one more thing.
That land, what the ordinance was, and we have turned down people on this before because they didn't want to put a 6-foot easement in there. They wanted the same thing. They wanted to buy some land off of Ron Station Road, Mildred Ron Road. Fella bought all that abandoned that, he wanted to do it, but he didn't want to build a county maintained road, and we wouldn't let him build it. So he actually sold the land, so, because he didn't want to have to build the dirt road out to.
I wish I could sell it for what I got in it.
But anyway, I was just giving you some.
Okay, well, let me tell you this too.
On what happened.
It wasn't just like the state, I knew the state of Georgia's a law that you got to have, you can't landlock anybody. If they would have, Fort Howard would have landlocked me. And I've already been through that with some big lawyers. And anyway, I got in there and I agreed with the 20-foot right of way. I tried to get it, and Mr. Charlie said he was okay with 30 foot. And then he said, no. I said, well, Grady wants 20 foot. That's all he's gonna let me have. And he said, let's go from the line over 20 foot. And I said, okay. Well, the fence line that he was pointing at, I thought it was a line. So when I went to get it, they blocked me off. We had to open 3 gates. We had to run through cow manure. We'd have to wash anybody's car that came to my house before they could leave. Meredith was going at night, and she come out, her doctor told her, you talk about hardship, her doctor told her, stress is what you cannot have. She had to get out with a damn, excuse me Lord, a big old bull, and that was stress. I was scared of the bull. He got at me. He had 111 cows I counted. You know how much cow manure is in a road? They made a fence now too, where the cows couldn't get over there in the shade, except on the road. So I got a road full of that. All right, so I said, I'll just take a 20 foot and build you a fence. Well, that wasn't a 20 foot. The line, Grady knew it, but I didn't. The line was 10 foot over. All I had was 10 foot. I was coming down a 10 foot little thing, or either go through the cow manure. I had 8 inches on each side of my door that I could open. And when I went and tried to talk to him, I said, we Christian people, we neighbors, we double dated. When we was in school, Grady and Dottie and Meredith and me and their family's been friends of mine. They put me so much hell in the last year that I was about ready to give away the land.
We'll take it.
But
We'll take it.
you take it if I give it to you. That's the only way you take it.
Jerry, when you went down there, you knew Grady, that was his pasture. He had cows out there the first time you ever went down there, didn't he?
Yeah, he had pasture down there. If the road was open, you could go through there any time. There would be 50 cars down there. I've had tremendous calls for people wanting to come up here and speak tonight. And I promised Jake that I wasn't going to get up here and tell all this, because he said it didn't matter because we could build a house. We could build it anyway. It don't matter to us. We're going to build a house. He's going to move down there. I've had people say it's 50 cars been down there. He talks about, they call it about too much traffic, 50 cars at night. People come to me and say, man, I partied down there in that thing. We had cars all up there. It ain't near the traffic since you've been down there.
But
I didn't mean to bring all this stuff
That's his
up.
land, Jerry. He can do what he wanted to with his land. I mean, we getting out of.
You can't landlock me with his land.
Anyway.
And I paid for enough fence to build 1,400 feet of fence, post, and I had to remove 42 trees. Some of them was 32 inches, I think, was the biggest one, the stumps and all. I had to move all that to make my road.
He could have made you go through the woods where you had to clean up the road.
No, he couldn't. You better read the law. You got to go the straightest way that you can come. It's the Georgia law. And I'm not a lawyer.
You back your point. Okay.
All right.
Mr. Grady.
I just want both people to have property rights.
Mr. Grady, would you mind?
Well, the ordinance is made for a reason. And I told you what the reason was.
I heard it.
Mr. Grady, you've been in this county a long time. I just want to ask you one thing. Y'all talked about it. Mr. Jerry talked about it. Y'all double date and all that. Maybe that's the reason you don't want him to be there. But, is there nothing y'all can work out? I just want to know that. Is it down to this commission making a decision? Is there nothing that y'all can work out as neighbors to resolve this?
Well, can I correct some of what he said?
You've got the floor, sir. As long as we let the civil man.
When all this it started when the bank had the property. It was a pickup truck would come down there, because I had cows on that front field. A pickup truck would come, I had no idea who it was. Pickup truck would come down there, they would open the gate. It's a pasture on his property now. It was a pasture at that time, established back years ago. It was a gate. If you wanted to go in there, you'd open the gate. Every time that they went down there, maybe occasionally the gates might have been open, but most of the time, them gates were shut. I kept that front gate shut because of the people that go down there and cut them donuts in the field.
I understand.
Anybody that's got a field that's in the country knows what'll happen at night on a Friday night. They can't stand it. They got to cut a donut. But that front gate has been shut ever since I've been here. But that's one thing. The fence was not no 8 foot from the property line. That was wide enough for a F-250 truck to go through there with plenty of room with wide mirrors. Also, and I did tell him that that property line was the outside that fence, not the fence was not the property line. I specified that. And then when I went to tell him about, about when we got the easement, why, I said something about the fence. Well, he didn't understand what I was talking about. So I said, well, the property line is outside the fence. It's not the fence. It's not the property line. I told you that when we talked about the easement. So, but I just want to clarify that. But as far as working something out, I gave 20 foot. Because I was understanding it was going to be one house, because that's all I ever heard. I'm going to build a house down there. And that's all I ever heard. And the property was, the bank wanted $750,000. It wasn't no $300,000 property. We wanted to buy, yes. But we couldn't buy 50 acres or 50-some acres for $750,000. So, I mean, it's a little difference in these stories, I understand that. But
have y'all agreed on where the 20-foot easement exists now?
From the property line, 20 foot.
So that's not a dispute anymore. We know where the
Right.
20-foot easement is.
It's
Everybody
recorded in the court.
He said it had a fence already up.
Has there been any agreement on how that easement's going to be maintained?
It's in the agreement, in the easement, that he would maintain the road.
The entire easement, correct?
Ma'am?
From the front all the way back to his property.
The whole easement, that's the way the easement is road.
And you do have a genuine concern that if his son is allowed to build one home on 2 acres back there, it's going to create a problem on that easement.
My problem is creating another Haddon Lake Road. I got property out there, I'm gonna want to get to some of my children or grandchildren or somebody. Am I gonna get a variance? And I come back in to get a variance. Now, just in the last year, that road, part of that road, where he cleared up is still fairly decent. But from there, where he hadn't cleared up, because he didn't clear up with that first 1,700 foot. That's all he created the road there. The rest of the property has not been cleared up to the property line.
You're not as concerned with this as you are in by doing this, what it may allow to continue, is what you're saying. What it opens up, possibly.
Yes.
And I would hope that we would grant, the commission would grant a variance to your children and grandchildren if they
Well,
wanted to.
the issue would be that he controls the easement. He would have the authority to widen it to 60 feet. He could actually create a road if he wanted to, where Armstead cannot. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, that's a legal statement.
See, if you were to decide to give part of that to your grandchildren or whatever,
Not in the second parcel.
Right. Kessler might not give me 40 more foot.
It would still take another variance.
Right.
okay. Anybody else got anything to say for the record? I think we understand.
again, just on the variance, I think that's probably enough information for you. If we do get to the rezone, of course, we'd like to readdress the commission. And just one couple of other matters, and I think y'all have all hit on the point. He had mentioned this was family land back to the 1700, and in all due respect, it was purchased from Bank of Newington, meaning somebody lost it, and that's what can happen. I mean, they may not always own these two parcels. It could be someone else owning it. So we're getting kind of caught up into the very specifics, again, not addressed by the ordinance that, you know, he wants his son and so forth, but it may not always be his son, or him owning the 50 acres. And that's the reason the ordinance is the way it is. This anticipates owners from now on, and it just kind of opens up Pandora's box if you started at this point.
But you understand that if this board denies the variance, they have the right under our present ordinances to build a second home back there.
I think that's what he said he was planning on doing. But
I'm told that's...
Yes, sir.
And what I don't want is for this board to vote this variance down and another house get up there and a bunch of people say, you can't do that. I want that for the record and everybody to understand that he has the right to build a second home on that property, just as it says.
Well, I'm not sure. I guess he does. I haven't looked at the building permit regulations, and I don't know if they require a specific plot or not. I can't really address.
According to what I'm told, our ordinances, he can build a second home on that property.
Just, yeah, I think the variance is just creating another lot. That's right.
It'd have to be in his name.
You'd have to. Yeah, I mean, well, if it's built on that land that's in the house doesn't have a separate title from the owner of the land. That's right. Yes.
And the Rons understand that. Everybody understands that can happen. Okay. Anybody else got something to say?
I don't know if we're going to discuss the other before we take this part to a vote, but if we're going to take this part to a vote now, I do want to ask for clarification from our county attorney. Have they changed their position on what they've said?
No. We haven't. We still believe the board can grant the ordinance if you choose. It's just dependent on whether the board feels that there's been enough justification to grant it.
Y'all done? Commissioner Wood, you have been very quiet. This is your district.
It is.
And our custom is to allow the commissioner from that district.
Over the past several months, I've definitely spent a lot of time looking into this issue. I've looked at it from all angles, or I feel I've looked at it from all angles. We as a board have looked at doing possible ordinance changes in that, but the common denominator that keeps coming up is we have a 20-foot easement. And I don't think it would be, or I myself feel, I don't think it would be very positive for the county to create any type of ordinance off the 20-foot easement. I don't think that would be positive growth going forward in the future. I've asked myself a lot of times, I too have a son. I would want to pass on property to my son if he did want to move next to me. I do understand that fact from a parent standpoint. Of course, my son is 2.5 years old, so it'll be quite some time before we get to that point. This has really been tough. I can definitely see everybody's angles, pros and cons on both sides of this decision. And what it boils down to is today we have certain ordinances in place. And I just feel at some point, at what point do you start walking away from the ordinances that are in place that govern your governing body? And with these rules in place, I just think if we start granting a bunch of variances, I think in the future that would create possible problems for this board of commissioners. Now, I could be the only one up here that thinks that. That is my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else up here. That's just my personal opinion. And with that being said, my motion is to deny the variance request from the owner's force.
And I'll second.
I have a motion and a second before the board to deny the variance request and uphold the planning board's recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion dies. Failure pass. Is there another motion on the floor?
I know this is difficult for both families, but I'm in agreement that property should be able to be passed down to a child. I don't think one more home and a couple cars will make that big a difference on that large tract of land, personally. We have the power to grant this variance, and with that, I'll make a motion to grant.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to grant the variance. No other discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Opposed. Motion carries 3-2. Let the record show that the variance has been granted.
All right, we might as well do away with that entirety of what we have on the book today.
You know, we granted, this is where set.
We can,
discussed this before
Moving forward to item number 2, then. Planning board recommends denying an application by Lord Armstrong to rezone 2 acres located at 1575 Union Springs Road from AR1 to AR2. Map number 457, parcel number 24 in the 3rd district. This is to allow for, what is it, cutting off 2 acres? 2 acres of the 58.55. Mr. Usher?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Again, Mr. Armstrong proposes to create this 2-acre parcel out of his 56-acre parcel, and to do so would require this rezone. AR1, of course, the minimum size is 5 acres. AR2, I think it is 1. But now, this is the copy of the code section that I have, and again, granted, I think I got it off of the county's website. But section 5.2.1.1, of which is AR2, agricultural residential districts, that states Class A single family detached dwelling, and this is under permitted use, excuse me. A Class A single family detached dwelling and their customary usage on the basis of one dwelling for each 43,560 square feet of land, approximately 1 acre, under the same ownership, and, there's that word again, and 100 feet of frontage on a public street. And we've just addressed that in the variance, that there's no way this 2-acre parcel can be on a public street. So even if you were to rezone this, you don't have a permitted use for a single family dwelling, because under the permitted use of AR2, it requires 100 feet of frontage on the road. So I think that's one problem that we have, and for that reason alone, I think the rezone should be denied. However, we also submit that the answers to the questions in the rezone checklist would also support denial, and I'll address these quickly. Is the proposal inconsistent with the county's master plan? Yes, it's inconsistent because, again, this area has already been designated for agricultural use, and that's the reason there's cows there, and that we were talking about earlier. This is an agricultural area. That's the reason these parcels are 30 acres and 50 acres and 100 acres. Mr. Arndore's proposed use is residential use. Question 4, does the property which is proposed to be rezoned have a reasonable economic use under the existing zoning? Of course, the property may be used for all of those permitted under the AR1 zone. In fact, the 56 acres is set up for agricultural use and already has one residential house on it. Does the proposed change constitute spot zoning, which would permit a use which would be unsuitable considering the existing use and development of adjacent nearby property? I think that would be pretty evident that it's spot zone. I don't know if there's another AR2 around it. All of the adjacent use is agricultural. In fact, again, Mr. Ron and his son does have cows on the adjacent tract of land. Question 6, will the proposed change in zoning adversely affect existing use or usability of adjacent or nearby property? I think we've partially addressed that. The more residential use you permit into an agricultural zone where there's livestock and other agricultural use, the more conflict that you're going to have that's going to be created. We've seen some of that already. He has to wash his car to drive through the cattle field. Again, because it is an agricultural use and you're trying to put more residential use right in the middle of it. We've determined that there would be additional burden created over the easement also, which traverses the Ron's land. Question 7, are nearby residents opposed to the proposed zoning change? That's why we're here. And number 8, do other conditions affect the property so as to support a decision against the proposal? Yes, the main condition is that 3,192 feet of access, not even counting the other land over Mr. Arnsdorf's land that he would have to travel to reach this 2 acres. Our clients again will agree to the 20-foot wide easement so as to retain this agricultural use rather than shifting it to more residential use. The standards under this ordinance easily support a denial of this rezone of the 2 acres, and on top of that, the AR2 zone will not allow a 2-acre parcel that does not abut on a public road. That's section 5.2.1.1, which is why we respectfully request that you once again accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and deny this request for a rezone. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions based on what you presented, and I may have to direct some to you and some to our county attorney, maybe administrator. And I don't know that I know what staff's recommendation was on the zoning. Does staff have a recommendation on the zoning based on, because it seemed like to me everything is based on the variance approval, but one, I had the understanding or assumption that staff would present to us an AR2 that they didn't think met the AR2. Is that right?
Again, it only meets the AR2 with the variance range from the first, as he pointed out, it requires 100 foot of access on a public road, which clearly it doesn't have, which is the variance. But you're allowing the lot to be subdivided on a easement rather than on a county road.
Okay, so you're saying the variance that was just granted takes care of that part, that front access part.
I really think that it probably should be a separate variance application for the AR2 zoning, but that could possibly be solved by conveying some more land and keeping it AR1 and allowing the house that way. But that's more of a practical question, I think.
See, because one way that you were, and I might be confused, so help me out. One way that you were referring to this, AR1 is agricultural, but you can have a home on it also.
With 5 acres, that's right. And that's, I
think, and AR2 is agricultural.
AR2 is agricultural.
It's still agricultural.
Yes.
It just is a difference in.
You just have to have an acre of land.
But you were referring to it as it's residential, but.
Well, it's looking to be put a residential use, is what it's looking.
They both allow for residents to be present, but they're both still considered agricultural.
That's right.
Okay, so I want to understand that.
The only difference in them, the AR1's got to be 5 acres, and the AR2 can be 1 acre.
1 acre with 100-foot road frontage. I think.
Yes.
Well, I'm clarifying that because it seemed like he was almost referencing it as if it was an R1, because it's still considered agricultural. So.
It is an agricultural residential district.
Okay.
So you have to get a variance.
Whether AR1 or AR2.
Correct.
Okay, so all that's still met.
It is.
Okay.
But if he was given 5 acres, it could continue to be AR1.
I believe that would be correct.
And he wouldn't even need his own.
Correct.
Yes. Mr. Jared.
Yes.
Why did you choose 2 acres rather than 5 acres?
I did. I told him he could have 10. I'd be glad to give him 5 acres.
I'm Kim Arnsdorf, Jake's wife. The reason why we purchased the 2 acres, or want to purchase just 2 acres, is because we had the cash to do it. And we're debt free, and we want to be able to purchase anything with cash that we can, and that's the amount of cash we have. So that's why it was 2 acres instead of 5 or 10 or 15. We'd love to have more, but financially we know what we can purchase and what we can't without going to a bank.
Have you already purchased it?
We haven't, no ma'am.
Okay. That was confusing me.
I'm sorry. But that's the reason why we chose 2 acres.
I just misunderstood. I thought he was trying to give his son some land.
And one other thing that you might need to do is read the access thing, because they have access as long as they live. Their families, and my family is written right there in the courthouse. So it's not like they getting access across land, they already got it, because they're my family, they're my heirs, and that's on the access thing.
Well, what about if y'all have it forever, then it's going to be 2 more families have access and their adjoining families. I mean, it carries out.
And again, I think it's beyond access at this point.
We're beyond the access, and the easement runs with the land, so, I mean.
He was just making a point that they already have that.
Right, and we're talking about, before we were talking about subdividing. If the land was never subdivided, they would continue to have access, and you could have 1,000 people coming up and down that easement every day.
So the question now is for the zoning, the legal question is, does the county attorney feel that we have an issue with making it AR2 with what's been presented?
I do think so, if you have that requirement that there be 100-foot of frontage to a public road.
Out of everything he said, that was the only thing that I questioned.
Again, I think it could be solved by conveying more acreage and just keeping it AR1.
Well, AR1's got a requirement on public road too, it's just more than 100 feet. Every single one of our zones has had that requirement.
The variance request really should be to allow more than 3 parcels on the 20-foot easement, and to also allow for that second residence.
Well, initially, I hope these parties could work it out amongst themselves. That has been my great hope. And with that being the case, just as Commissioner Roper said, I definitely think we need to take a relook at the policy, period, and make some adjustments to the policy. For tonight, with the rezoning, if we do not approve the rezoning tonight, it is 6 months before they can apply again?
Only if it's denied. I mean, you can table it, or you can, we'll table it once. I think you can table it once if the applicant wants at your request. The first was if the applicant according to your policies, or you can remove it from the agenda. It's only if it's denied.
Okay.
What you got, Nicole?
I just wanted to clarify, at the December the 9th meeting, Vera, you stated that you had a conflict of interest in this and you were going to abstain from voting.
I mean,
what? Okay. We printed the minutes and we have that here. I'd like clarification on what your conflict of interest was.
I don't have any remembrance of doing it on this particular issue.
Who takes the minutes? Who records the minutes?
Stephanie, she's not here tonight.
They were in December.
When we were here.
Before it got tabled the first time, not the last time. Is that right?
No, the last time.
It's only been there.
It's only been tabled once, and you stated Commissioner Jones abstained from voting due to a conflict.
There was a point in time in which my husband was building a house for Jerry and Meredith Arnsdorf.
That was back in 2013
Yeah,
when they built
and
the
once
home.
that was over,
This hasn't been discussed then.
well, let me state really clearly, tonight, there is no conflict of interest.
What's changed December to
Well,
now?
that's why I want to know why. I want clarification on that.
I'll listen to the tape and see when and what I said, because I don't have remembrance of it. But if I did, what I was trying to be careful was that he had received his last payment for building their house or whatever.
Well, surely he would have got the money when he built the house.
If you got something to say.
I'll get up. Okay.
Well, you can really not want.
State your name.
Charlie Kessler. My dad and mom owns the land. Miss Jones, that house was built a couple years ago. And if I would known as contractors, as soon as you finish, you get your money.
Jerry, their house was built a couple years ago?
When was it built? Miss Jones, since y'all built it?
When did you move in?
We've been in a year.
A year. So I'm sure they don't owe you no more money. Usually when you make the final things to your house, and all you would receive your money as a contractor.
Like I said, Charlie, I'll be glad to listen to the tape and see what I
Yeah,
said.
I mean, it's
And I was
right here.
trying to be careful. I don't know if I had in my mind that there was a year we warranted the house. I'm not sure. But what I can tell you now is, there is no conflict of interest present. You can try to make one up.
I'm not making one up.
There isn't one.
It's the minutes right here, your
If I did
minutes.
it, I was trying to be safe and sorry. It does not exist.
I go by what the minutes.
Point of record right now.
Minutes.
And we'll have some for tonight as well, and I responded to your question.
My other thing is, as the 6 of y'all commissioners there that's made this decision, are y'all prepared that we're gonna have 17 more variances requested off of this road, and we're gonna want them all passed based on it's all family, and we want all of our family.
So if you just keep it fair.
We have a cell phone tower that we want to build within the 1,000 feet. We're going to want a variance on that. I mean, it's just going to play out. And it's not that we don't want Jack and Kim to live by Jerry and Meredith. We want y'all's governing body to respect the ordinances y'all put in place and y'all pledged and y'all took oath to look at us citizens and respect what you put in place.
We didn't put that ordinance in place.
You came into, well, when you come into office, you know what? You should have requested, we need to change this ordinance if you didn't agree with it.
I don't agree.
You stand behind it. Well, you took an oath and you said.
As I stated tonight, I think we need to put on the agenda and look at it. This has made that clear.
First item's been taken action on. We're talking about the second item. We're dealing with AR1, AR2. And if I understand correctly, the difference in 5 acres that the Armistice was willing to sell, give, whatever, it became 2 acres because of a monetary. Can that be worked out to where it becomes 5 acres and this becomes a moot point then?
I'll be glad to give it 3 more acres to make it 5 acres.
That's another request. That doesn't have anything to do with this, what this application was for. We'll start all over.
No, what I was understanding was if that occurs, there's no rezoning.
If that occurs, there's no reason to rezone it to AR2, so there'd be no need to vote.
There's no need to rezone it then.
Right.
But it require another variance because you're moving from 2 to 5.
It would start a whole new process.
There would be no variance.
They don't have an application for 5 acres to give variance to the ordinance. They have
I don't
application
think,
for 2
I
acres.
agree. They can't change, you can't change the vote.
The application is signed. Here's the copy.
He can deny it and put it back on the agenda. Or they bring it back.
We can deny the motion and turn it into AR2 and it just goes away if it gives 5 acres rather than.
That's correct. You could deny the rezoning, and then you could give 5 acres and it would remain AR1, and there'd be no need to rezone the property.
I think they were asking, does that variance still stand, or was that, the variance have anything to do with the fact that it was tied to
The variance was to create a full lot.
The variance was to create a 4th lot.
So that even goes away,
No, because you'd still be creating a 4th lot. It would just be.
Item number 1 stands on your vote. Item number 2, this board can deny, if you so choose, to rezone from AR1 to AR2. Can deny it. They can simply plat out 5 acres and it never has to come back. That's correct.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Y'all good at finding loopholes.
No, because I have a problem with the AR2, but just like I was trying to tell y'all, I'm not trying to find a loophole. I'm trying to tell you what can happen.
Your attorney actually gave a bad reason for the zoning of the AR2 possibly being a problem, and our attorney verified that.
Because if the board denied the variance, the house can still get built.
So according to the state law that was read on ordinances and issuing the variance, issue this variance that y'all just voted and approved?
The board,
What was y'all's decision maker on causable reason to give that, to vote for? Phil, Vera, and Forrest are the ones that voted yes. What was your reason, Phil?
you would have to ask them that. This board takes action as a board. No, this isn't, we're through with it.
Okay.
We're through with it.
We're not through with it, I promise.
I'd like to know, sir.
There's a lot of things I'd like to know. But the board takes action as a board. You know, you heard that. There were two that voted one way, three voted another.
I don't mind saying for myself. You know, they can do what they say they're gonna do, and, you know, I don't mind saying it anytime I take a vote. I don't believe that any government body should have the power to prevent an American citizen from giving property to their children. If I had to, I would vote to do away with zoning in Effingham County before I'm going to take the right of even any of you to give property to your child.
So do you not feel that it would be necessary for them to approach other landowners and maybe it'd be split?
And I know you can just keep talking and you have no respect for any of the process.
No.
But I also relied on the county attorney advice.
Jerry, I have one other question for you. And we're dealing with easements. Whether this creates a 2-acre or a 5-acre tract, whatever it winds up being. There's a 60-foot access easement from your property line back to this tract of land, correct?
I beg your pardon?
Whether this becomes a 2-acre or a 5-acre tract, you have put on the plat that you are proposing a 60-foot access easement from your property line where the 20-foot easement ends.
Oh, yes.
And that's not a right-of-way that can be used as a public road. That's an easement.
And where was this?
Jake's land?
When the 20-foot that Grady gave you runs out, you have got a 6-foot easement there to the rest of your property, is what he's wanting to know.
Glad he can explain it better than I.
When the 20-foot easement goes out, when it hits your land, you have got a 6-foot.
Reggie, would you let your chairman address it for me, please? I think he could tell me what he said. You know, I know you're smart, but.
All right, well, go ahead. I'll shut up.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Starting at your property line, you are proposing a 60-foot access easement to whatever this tract of land winds up being. 2 acres, 5 acres, whatever.
Do I need that?
I'm asking. That's what's on the plat. I'm looking at a plat right here for the proposed 2 acres, and you're starting at the end of the 20-foot easement at your property line and putting a 60-foot easement.
I didn't know it was on there, but if it's necessary for just the homeowner, for Jake to have, I'll put it on there.
Well,
but if it's not, I don't know how it got on there.
In fairness to Commissioner Loper, I can see how this thing can go and go and go, because like Nicole and someone said, this isn't over. So down the road, they start splitting out pieces of property on a 20-foot easement along there.
You're trying to say if he gave less of an easement there, then anyone else would still have to get a variance approved, and it would be harder than if it was left like this, and then they can start splitting that up.
That's correct.
So they're saying it would be better if you gave less than a 60-foot on yours, so that it wouldn't look like the possible intention is possible. You don't have 2 acres. 2 acres, right? I mean, how much can they split 2 acres up?
I think that's just what the,
But
I think that's what the surveyor put on there.
you're saying it doesn't have to be 60.
If it doesn't have to be, it won't be on there.
But Attorney Russian did bring up something interesting for, you know, this thing is on a road, 100-foot frontage on a road. You can create that if that was a right-of-way it could be done.
You make it complicated.
But I'm just trying to think, no, I'm trying to think that on the road, if
He's
they.
got it on, he's already got it on there.
Have to be a county thing, right?
But it says county maintainer, okay? It says county maintainer.
I'm just trying to get all the facts so they can make a decision, however.
Whatever it needs to get the house built is what I'll put on it.
Okay. All right. Before this board, then, there's a decision whether to grant the AR2 from an AR1, which I have a problem with, I don't want to tell you.
Well, I think the county attorney said that she has a problem, so.
I have a problem
He's gonna
with
get
that.
5 acres, isn't he?
But if he's willing to do 5 acres,
You still got to make a decision on what we got at hand right here.
yeah, and that's why I say the board either denies the rezoning, which then they can go make it a 5-acre tract and it stays AR1.
Just for a recap, where we are at this moment is, if I understand correctly, we've approved the variance that would allow for the 4th. If we turn down the zoning, it would leave it back into the Orange Board's hands that if they were to choose to make it 5 acres, they'd still be able to give their sons some property, but they'd have to make it 5 acres.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
We good? If I
Whether they will or
understand
not,
where we at.
I'm okay, I'm okay. They have an ability to give their child land if they want to.
Make a motion to deny.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to deny the rezoning. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We did that very well. It took us an hour and 15 minutes. Attorney Rushing, we get paid by the hour. We drug it out long.
Let's take a break.
All right.
Chairman, we're an hour, and these people are about to hang us over, I believe.
Oh,
They've been on hold for an hour.
oh.
That was the problem of not being ready.
When they were supposed to be ready at 5:15, not 5:05. And they were ready at 5:15.
Can we be dismissed, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. All right.
Ms. Jones,
This is a 15-minute.
I heard you right. If we decide to split our property in the next 6 months to a year throughout family members, are you going to grant us a variance?
Everything is,
Yes, sir.
every variance, no, sir.
I just want to hear you on record, because that's what I understood, that you said that you
Did
was
not say that.
for being able to hand property down.
Yeah.
I don't guarantee
No, we're not,
That's what
we're not gonna get into this.
It's all about me, right?
Every variance is taken case by case.
It's all about me.
Y'all okay?
Can you hear me?
All right.
Hello?
They said if you don't take a phone call.
We got 15 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
15 minutes.
So we
How about-
told 15 minutes.
Okay, you ready?
This is a meeting, a webcam with some, with a company that has some equipment that are considering for our next budget. And this is just to give y'all an insight. When you see it, you'll know what it is. Didn't know.
Okay, Daniel, can you hear us? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Just try to keep it quick, give an overview of this data collection package. Basically, the eliminate fee for paper property record cards, maps, and manual data entry of your appraisal business cycles. So I've got the iPad on the screen here, and each appraiser work is downloaded from the iPad. as you see, there's various different urgency levels that we need to visit one property quicker than another one. If it's a new construction or deal case, something like that, we're able to manage that. Here's a property record. You. Again, no need to print paper, review the data here. If you see something that needs collected or that's an error, you simply tap on the area of screen. It looks like it's black. There we go. And you're able to make any edits that are needed. So, for example, if you need to change it to a lead story, you can see that it keeps track of what the one story changes to a two story. So you can go through and get your data collection, and all of these changes can be sent back to a full module in the office for supervisors to immediately begin doing that work. And then it will go directly into your camera system. No need for secondhand data entry. And in terms of collecting data, now you can also go and take all of your photos from the iPad as well. No need to keep track of external camera log and getting all those back into your office. Renaming the photos, they just simply scan it, and it will be back in your office in just a few minutes. See, there's a date timestamp, and your parcel number will be automatically put onto the property as well. Another item that we're able to utilize for GIS mapping. To help with the bond identification of your property, you always know that you're on the correct property. Well, here's the sketching so that you can obviously modify your sketches. Yeah, you can do this just by touching the screen, making your edits, monitoring the field, and all this will get passed back automatically to the camera system.
He's live, so if y'all have a question, you can ask.
Put the screen back a bit on.
I'd say basically, Dennis, do you have something like this to actually, do you have a demo yourself other than just doing it on the phone with them?
No, this is the only, we've had one meeting with them prior to this, and then we set this up for this afternoon. Didn't know it was.
Is there someone,
Hard to get it out of it.
yeah, is there someone else around us that is using this program?
There's several counties around the state now that's going, you know, with this proposed. Paulding County, which is not close to us, is their guinea pig, so to speak, right now, that's going up and live. Basically, what we wanted you to see from this, and, you know, as short or as long, is the capabilities that we have, what it can do, how it can alleviate a need down the road for staff. Using the same staff that we have now, we can do the job, plus because we're getting close to that cutoff point of staffing as required by the state. You know, this is an answer for us. They don't have to bring it in. They don't have to, it doesn't have to have 2 pairs of hands put to everything.
Which is room for error every time a hand touches, there's another chance for error.
Is the staffing requirement going to be changed by the state?
Well, no, well, we're under it now. Right now, the state would require us having 14 certified people, and we have 13 in my office, and only 12 are certified. So this is just a way around so that we can keep going without the need for more staffing, because we think with this type of technology, you know, we'll be able to do what we need to do and all the other administration that we have to do on top of it. And this is not an ask for money for tonight. We just wanted you, because we're in the budget process now, thought this would be a good opportunity for you to get a hands-on eye of this type of technology. I've got 2 of my board members here, you know, and they've sat through the long presentation. So, because it is live, that's why it's dragging just a bit.
So everybody that went out on the road would have their own computer with this setup?
Everybody, it's an iPad, and everybody, all 5 appraisers would have this. They would put the technology in, and they tell me if they're out of range that it goes to the cloud and we don't lose anything. It just downloads once we get back in range again.
Until it runs.
But at any, so I mean, we understand these folks. We set this up, and you know, it didn't quite work out as planned, but
I understand.
it was hard
And I can't hardly see these, they're fuzzy.
It was hard to see them.
I can't hardly hear him, but let me just tell you, I've basically got a hard and fast rule, and I've broken it twice, and both times it came back to haunt me. And that is, I don't buy new technology and vehicles and things like that. And that's why I was asking if somebody else has done it. I'd rather somebody else be a guinea pig
Use right now.
and let me have a year to go and sit down. I'm in Paulding County.
How many a year just drafting?
Can you explain where you're using this now? Is that this technology?
Okay, yeah. It's used in various states, Ohio, Texas, Iowa, and West Virginia. It's been used in about 56 different jurisdictions. We processed over 7 million real estate parcels. There's currently 450 appraisers throughout various states that are using this product.
Your board members, 2 of them are here.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm asking this question of y'all. Y'all looked at the in-depth presentation.
Yes, sir.
Y'all satisfied?
Yes, sir. This is a potential tool that improve the operations, reduce the amount of possibilities for error inputs, and speed up the review process. Plus, it is directly transferable.
But my question is, and I think I can say this accurately, I've heard this before, well, state requires us to have this many people on staff, this many parcels, and we're getting back into this subdividing and doing, and that was my question, is the state going to change their standards and say, okay, you've got this, no, we're not going to require you to have 14 people for this many parcels, you may only have to have 12. Or are they going to keep on requiring for us to be accredited, or whatever you want to call it? Are they going to acknowledge this? Or are we going to be down the road saying, nope, we bought this, the state still says we've got to have 16 people now?
All right, I understand, but what you're saying opens up a whole nother can of worms, because the state also says that we must review every property every 3 years. And I don't know of any county in the state of Georgia that does that. but we have to show that we are making the attempt to do so. This would show we're making the attempt to take care of this staffing problem by using other methods, you know, to stay on top.
Other than the thing that we've done in the past where we use somebody outsourced, is that how we got around that?
No, we've never really gotten around it. We've just, during the review, we've been able to show that this is the process we track every parcel that we go and review every year. So we can tell you how many we looked at over the past year, and we actually looked at more than the 4 appraisers that are out there, you know, would have to do. But we also put 162 new homes in the county last year. So we're starting to grow again. So what I'm trying to do is look beyond my nose.
Do you have to explain how that's tracking? You want to explain how the tracking is working up there so they can hear? We can hear you, you just can't hear us.
Yeah. Yeah, what happens is every time that the appraiser would walk into the application, it would take a GPS of their location, as well as every time that they mark a property as complete. So you would know where they were when they made the edits on the property and when they marked it as complete. So I see that the appraiser was actually out there in this area working as he was in all these properties as complete.
In the big
Had you not really been out, you would often see one thing, and then all of his accounts that he was working, you know, while it can actually give you the safety issue, you know, so check on the rock on your appraisal field. Have a citizen call in and say, hey, do you really have an appraiser out here? You'd be able to have the location and verify yes or no, as well as some transparency that we actually have to put on your property.
Does this program interact at all with building permits? It does not.
No, but then again, we have a system in place now that interacts with the building permits, but it's never been used because the county uses another permitting system.
Right.
So, you know.
Did I miss, did you address the cost? Did I miss that?
What? No, we haven't gotten to the cost yet.
Well, roughly. I think without a long overview of this, I think we probably have a really solid idea of what kind of capabilities are there. Are you using anything like this right now? Everything's manual?
Well, everything is manual. We looked at tablets, but tablets had problems that, you know, we weren't there yet with this technology, like I said. And the cost with the purchase of five iPads plus the maintenance and the internet usage, which we would be using, would be under $21,500 startup, and then after that it'd be like $4,300 a year for upkeep, or a little more if we added more technology. But down the road, for $20,000, and it was more than that, it was like $49,000 until the state got involved, because right now we're on Wind Gap. Wind Gap covers 142 counties in the state of Georgia. So by them coming into this, we get a better price on it with all the counties that are looking into it and, you know, basically trying to commit toward this.
So this would become the state standard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We've already worked through with the Wind Gap programmers, and there's no problem.
So less than an employee, and probably 10 times, more than 10 times the capability of several employees.
Yes.
Well, I'd be curious, and it's probably a question for him, in where they're using it. Has it been a pretty good, the employees been able to pick up on it pretty quickly? And that's what I see a lot with technology, is it's usually underutilized.
Did he hear that question?
Probably here.
Okay, well, ask that. With the technology that's in place in the other places, have the employees been able to pick up on using the iPads with this program?
Yeah, absolutely. I can explain what's going on with this part here, and it will speak to that. Typically, just a 2 or 3 week learning curve, and this part right here is out of Austin, Texas, and this green chart here, green lot, this is it looks like full red line, when they got them all off on their iPads, you see that they exceeded what they were doing on paper by thousands of properties. They actually ended up finishing 3 months ahead of time once they got the use of the full cycle.
So initially, you're going to have to be inputting information from the present system into this system. No. This is just all new input.
We will, we'll send the upload and they'll upload it into this so that it interacts with this mobile assessor software. And we've already worked through all of those problems. It's just basically uploading our information to them. Yeah.
So it's pretty instant.
Well, not instant. It'll take some time because conversion always does. But this was just a glimpse that turned out to be more than a glimpse for you to see where we're headed, what we're thinking of, and where we're wanting to go with the technology in our office, and try to look ahead as to where we're going with these parcels. Because it's not going to take but a couple of new subdivisions to get put on the books for our parcel count to go up even more. And these laws that are on the books, as long as we can show that we are trying to work and do and work toward meeting these goals, we've never been written up for that because we've always, tried to do it. Tim, do y'all, you or Graham? Tim is our chairman of our board of assessors. Tim,
I know, that's why I keep looking at it.
I thought it was just, my handsome look.
And then Brad is one of the members of Brad's board. He's the vice chair.
Well, we entrust y'all to oversight this. So, I mean, if y'all are doing an in-depth look, there's no way that we're going to sit here in 15, 20 minutes and look at this thing and make a decision.
Yeah, that's not, we don't want a decision. This was a glimpse for you to see what we're doing. So that when we present our budget and you see these numbers out there, you'll know what they relate to, because I don't know of any other way of getting this to you. Okay?
Being able to download data. First of all, go on site. Upload the data, be able to track where the appraisers at in the field, know when they're there, and then reaccount it, shove it to a neutral load, bring it back here, and it can be edited real time.
There's no comparison.
And then go to WinGap.
I can't believe we're still doing everything manually myself. So.
And there'll be some other things that I might go behind them just to check with the property owner to make sure that everything is being handled like I want it.
Like us using a typewriter instead of a computer.
Yes. So
Well,
this was your glimpse, and we appreciate it.
My apologies to y'all for making you wait, to the gentleman on the phone, and to everybody concerned with this. I had no idea. I knew it would be a little first time. Planning Board recommends approving an application by Lisa Cannon to rezone 6.73 acres located at 183 Melbourne Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 329B, parcel number 4, located in the 1st District. Put your other hat on.
Our boss. Actually, I didn't think through this very well. This isn't going to work out. I can't read any of this up here.
We've got everything. We've got plats. We've got a plat up.
This is just a rezone to subdivide. I believe it's 4 acres. You can see just a rezoning for subdivision of property. I do believe for a family member. Is that correct? Yeah, for a family member. The planning board did recommend approval, as does staff. And the applicant is here.
All right. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak against this rezoning? for the rezoning? You got something to say? Come on.
No, not just again,
You just like to have it
Yeah, I
done?
would like to have it
I
done.
got you. All right. All right, first district. I'll entertain a motion.
Now I make a motion we approve based on the planning board and staff recommendations.
Second. Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. All right, number 2 was removed. Item number 3.
Excuse me, Chairman, would you mention, because I see a few people that's here that I know they were here specifically for 2, and so mention, if you'll mention that 2 was tabled or canceled, and what it was the rezoning, which one it was, so that they're aware.
Are there individuals here for item number 2, which was the sketch plan for an 11 lot?
That was removed earlier, so
That has been removed.
I'm pretty sure they understood.
That was asked to be removed, and we did so at the beginning of the meeting. Okay. All right, item number 3. Planning board recommends approving an application by James and Myrtle Hall for variance to live in a camper on a property located at 270 Cypress Point Road, map number 367, parcel number 7, in the 3rd district.
So the applicant is building a home on this particular property and would like to live in a camper during the construction of that. Planning board did recommend approval. Staff recommended denial because it doesn't meet the requirements of section 7.1.8 variances. But again, planning board does recommend approval. And it's limited to 8 months. It's what the planning board recommended, that it be limited to a period of 8 months.
I don't know what the camper situation is set like, but one thought that comes to mind for me, and I'm sorry I didn't catch this earlier to ask, so I don't know your time, but is there some type of something set up properly for septic? Do we know that?
Is there a problem with septic?
Is there something properly set up, in other words? Is there already a septic tank in place and the camper's going to run to the septic tank while they live there? Or what's the scenario that's set for that?
Septic tank water already there.
Yeah, we've got to utilize that.
I'm sorry, my name's Jimmy Hall. I'm a little hard of hearing. What did you ask?
The camper that you live in is going to be set to use the existing septic tank?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What it was, like I said the last meeting that I was here, we were living in a house in Effingham County that we built a house for 31 years. We put the house up for sale to downsize, and what happened, my mom was staying with us and she was ill. We were going to take the house off the market, and the house sold at the last minute. I've already had a camper. I've got a nice camper.
I'm just trying to be sure we meet health department regulations.
Oh yeah, I've got a septic tank. There was already a septic tank. There were people living there in a double wide. There's already a septic tank and a well there.
That's what I want to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So where you were living before you sold your house, so you don't have no place to live now, more or less?
More or less. I was going to take the house off the market, but it sold. At the last minute it sold, and we had to be out by December the 1st.
Okay.
Can you build your house within this 8-month time span? That's been
Yeah, they've already brought the lumber for the house. They're starting the house now. Joel Carter is building the house. He's already built the shop about 8 months ago. You know, my shop right behind the house. So he's fixing to start the house now. They've already put the lumber on the site.
So you've gotten the permit for the house is under
Yes, sir. Perk test.
Health department's approved the septic tank that's already there to be used.
But, right.
And you're basically going to be tying the camper up to the saw pole that's there. And
that's right.
And staying there while the house is being constructed for 8 months.
Mr. Ron, the electrician, put the saw pole up, put the breakers in it for the camper.
All right. At the planning board hearing, Does the record show if anyone was there to oppose this?
Nobody
The record does not show that.
Did anybody oppose it?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Is there
I mean,
anyone?
no, sir, they sure didn't.
All right, anyone here that, in the audience that wishes to oppose it?
Where's this road located at? It's off of Highway 119, but where at? I was trying to.
It's,
cemetery.
You know where the cemetery is out on the right hand, right behind the rec department?
Yes.
The cemetery, it's, the road is right beside the cemetery. It's 270 Cypress Point Road.
Okay, I was trying to look at this map and try to figure out where it was, and
We're the,
First road past the library.
yeah, the first road past the library. You take a right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, all business, annex.
All right. Anybody else got a question? Third district.
I make a motion to approve or go with the planning board's recommendation to allow the Halls to live in a camper up to 8 months on the property while their house is being constructed.
I second.
Thank you.
Thank
Motion
you.
and a second to approve the planning board recommendation. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. All right, that concludes the planning board presentation. First item, new business, consideration to approve to amend standard operating procedure forms for Effingham County Animal Control Shelter.
The board last approved or amended these SOPs in October 2014 to allow for the no-cost transfers to rescue groups. I now have the privilege of working there, and I've seen the error of my ways, so knowing that I'm the author of the forms that were originally approved, we just basically, I took each form and made it as an individual form, asking for name, date, address, animal ID number, and I'm asking for the same repetitive information in some of these forms. So we just condensed those forms. The attorneys made taken out some dead wood or some repetitive language as well, and it would reduce our adoption package from 6 pages to 5 pages. That includes the adoption application.
There was nothing changed that makes anything more stringent for anyone, right?
No. Hopefully it will streamline the process so they don't have to just fill out the
On
repetitive.
some of the forms, you was asking the same questions on 2 different forms, and now you got to combine them.
Yes, sir. And when I created the forms, I created them each as a standalone form, not realizing that they all go as a package for the adoption package. So you sign the adoption policies when you sign the adoption agreement. So we just added those all to the same page. And if anybody needs to donate, we need leashes and collars.
Other question? I'll make a motion.
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve to authorize the chairman to sign a letter to the Law Library Committee stating the terms of the funding for the drug court. And I will tell you that this is the result of our last action that the board approved the transfer of the resolution from the law library, and this was basically to let them know that we did it. What was said. Just to clarify the record, basically.
In essence, if the chairman wanted to send a letter to clarify a motion or what we said, he could do that even without, I don't know if I'm voting for this, but he could do that without us voting for this, as long as it's only stating what we voted on, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's stating what you voted on. I think just for,
That's what that you have authority to do.
yeah.
Okay. You know, if there was additional things, but would be,
Right, I think the thinking behind this was just to keep it all on record and to have even more documentation. This is what the board wanted. They were approving this letter.
I don't know.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the letter as presented.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve to authorize Edward directly to vote during the next CGAR meeting. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Ed Meyer, Director of Emergency Management. The Southeast Georgia Regional Radio Network, known as CGAR, consists of 7 counties, Effingham being one of those counties. Each county's radio system is connected to a core, or a central switchboard, in which CGAR has authority. Effingham County is currently connected to CGAR, which eliminates the need for a core within our jurisdiction. Effingham County's new P25 radio system software is computer-based. Therefore, the technology that governs it is constantly changing. As technology changes, annual upgrades are available that increase capability, protect against viruses, and protects against the criminal element. In 2014, CGAR, as a majority vote, decided to upgrade the core to a version 7.14. This upgrade was the first to occur in 7 years, which had left the radio system susceptible to failure. Effingham County was given 2 options at that time: upgrade the software on our own radio system to match the core, or disconnect from CGAR. The decision was made to upgrade the software, which is expected to match the core requirements through 2016. If Effingham County had decided to disconnect from CGAR, the radio system would have worked. It just would have gone into what we call trunking mode. The biggest consideration was the impacts Effingham County would experience from disconnecting from the core site. During the next CGAR meeting, scheduled for March 5th, county representation is expected to vote on the acceptance of a system upgrade agreement with Motorola, or an SUA-2. The SUA-2 would allow Motorola to upgrade the software to our radio system every 2 years, while distributing payment annually to lessen the financial impact. The SUA-2 would allow Motorola to upgrade our communication system software, hardware, switches, and servers as they become obsolete, mainly keeping the communication system at peak performance. In full disclosure, the SUA-2 is separate from the infrastructure maintenance contract. If you recall, our maintenance contract was incorporated in the 2014 P25 upgrade and will sustain through 2018. This maintenance contract covers 24/7 on-call tech support and emergency repairs, whereas the SUA-2 covers updates and expansion. Within Georgia, counties such as Cobb, Fulton, Gwinnett, and Richmond have determined that the SUA-2 is more fiscally responsible than replacing an entire system every 7 to 10 years. At this time, I am requesting guidance on how the board wishes to vote during the next CGAR meeting, either for the SUA-2 or against.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Here's the question that I got. Number one, what gets us to a position that we have to spend all this money? The thing works just like it is, but CGAR gets involved and goes along with Motorola, and the way it sounds is this ongoing money. The system wouldn't become obsolete if they weren't making it obsolete.
Well, you have to remember that the computer system is not radio-based so much as it is computer-based. Just like Windows XP falls out of service. Your cell phone. My cell phone, I had it for a month and it did a Verizon system upgrade. And this is the same kind of scenario.
But they created. If they didn't upgrade, if Motorola didn't do these upgrades, just like Windows 7, Windows 8, if they didn't do away with the program and make it obsolete.
Well, there's a couple things there. The P25 standards requires companies like Motorola to use off-the-shelf products. So they are susceptible to third-party vendors who have their own software. and they can't use Motorola proprietary items just for that. That's what that was for.
What it boils down to is, whether we like it or not, what are our options? And I'm trying to understand what those options are. Our options are, we have to give you approval to vote for it so that we stay up to date. Or if we say, if we were to all vote no tonight and we don't give you approval, what happens then?
Well, I would go back and vote no on your behalf. And then Seagarn, as a majority vote, would decide whether they want to accept it or not. And if they did accept it, then we would be back in the same boat as the 714. We would either accept it or we would disconnect from Seagarn.
So I get on the phone and talk to the representatives from these other counties and find out, well, why are y'all going along with this, with spending this extra money?
Well, if you, and don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for or against, I'm just trying to give you the information that you need. If you say spending more money to do this, you have to imagine the SUA2 replaces servers, switches, and software as they become obsolete. If you wait 7 to 10 years, you're doing a forklift replace. So it's either $50,000 annually or it's $3 million at the end of the 10 years.
But are they obsolete because they become ineffective and inoperative? That's what we have a maintenance contract for, correct?
Now, so your maintenance contract is for 24/7 tech support and for emergency repairs. This is for software upgrade. This is for virus protection. This is just like our IT department here upgrades your computer from time to time. It's the same thing that Motorola would come in and do for us.
I understand when you're on any kind of, we're in a system, we're part of the system.
That is correct.
And we're either going to stay part of the system or we're going to get out of the system.
That is correct.
One or the other.
Now,
and which one's going to be most cost effective? That's what it boils down to. Can we get out of the system and if we get out of the system, are we going to lose what we lose? That's what we have to do.
Or can it affect change in the system?
And do our radios continue to work, or then do we have to replace radios when this goes into effect?
If you disconnect from Seagarn, the radio system will work. There's no doubt it will work. In the staff report, there are a list of things that will happen. Most important, financially speaking, we are legally responsible to pay back all the monies that was given through grant funds for us to be a part of Seagarn. So you're looking at $700,000 to $1 million payback. I'm not saying they would enforce it, but I'm saying that we would be legally responsible for that money.
And who voted to get us in that position?
We all inherited this system. But keep in mind that before this, we had an old VHS system that was outdated and didn't work very well. This is new technology. It is state of the art. But it's just like buying a new car and then deciding not to change the oil for your maintenance. I have reviewed the radio system and some of the options, and we cannot get old frequencies to go backwards.
I understand. I do. Recommendation, but it does say, let me ask you this, it says funding. No funding is required. Well, actually, it's not required tonight.
Correct.
But it's going to be required over time, each different year, and we don't know, is there any limit? Is there any way to budget this? Do we have any idea how much?
Well, I think what it's asking for tonight is just to vote Seagarn. If y'all say either way, if Seagarn approves this, he will come back before you with the actual agreement to be signed. He's not asking to enter into the agreement with Motorola.
Correct.
He's just asking for guidance as he goes to Seagarn. So like you said before, even if he votes no, if the other 6 vote yes, they'll bring back the agreement with Motorola that'll have that detailed pricing. There is on the next page of your staff report pricing that came a year ago or so. I would assume that's fairly firm.
It is correct. It's budgetary numbers.
Yeah. So that the exact pricing will come when the agreement's presented to y'all in 16.
50 to 55,000 every year for the next so many years.
Correct. It's between 55 and 58, ramping up over the next 24, next 8 years.
2024, yeah.
What happens if 3 of them vote no? What's the voting policy of Seagarn? I mean, what carries the vote? What if it's voted down? What happens?
Well, if it's voted down, then they just won't accept the SUA2, and we will continue on. Seagarn would continue the core with no maintenance.
Which could theoretically cost us how much?
It would be a forklift replacement in the next 10 years.
So we're part of the system that has no maintenance, and then we all, it's like you're letting chicken and Hill Road.
Correct. In speaking with Motorola today, getting a price to replace the entire system is $20 million.
So in other words, over the next 10 years, we spend $600,000, or we can spend.
Joanne, our real use lost.
Well, I think staff has said we've had several questions. One, there's no outline of exactly what we do get. What enhancements do we get with this particular software and these upgrades? Would we be better to leave it for the next 5 years and then upgrade? We've looked at it several different ways. I think as staff, we need to get more involved in this a lot quicker when they start to discuss these upgrades.
Well, that's what's hard for us to be asked to give them direction on a vote when we're not going to be in the room hearing the information. How do we know what direction to give?
And I'll be honest with you, staff here has not had the time to participate in these discussions to actually understand the totality of it. My concern is are they anticipating doing anything else other than this?
I'm sorry, you're saying staff though, or you mean, you're not talking about?
We're talking about administrative staff, okay. not necessarily you. My question would be is, are they talking about doing anything other than this in the next, between now and 2024? Is there anything else out there?
No. In speaking with the majority of the members of Seagarn, they are going to vote in favor of the SUA2. Jurisdictions have already set money aside for this.
All of the rest of these?
Not all. The ones that I have spoken to have. Savannah, Chatham, City of Savannah and Chatham County have already set aside money. And in complete honesty, Seagarn can vote however they want to vote. This is a Chatham County core.
Chatham County pays a big price for theirs.
They do.
Chatham and City of Savannah.
So are you saying then that the rest of the entity could vote this no and it still go forward? Is that what I just heard?
Technically, no. Technically, Seagarn has the authority. But ultimately, Chatham County runs the core. I mean, they run it. It's there. They're the ones that go to it every single day. The grant money was given to create the core with the understanding that they would let other jurisdictions come on board. So you take that however you want to read it, really.
Well, let me ask you this. Are they planning on changing anything with Seagarn as far as the structure of it?
There are no foreseeable mentions of that, no. I mean, we still have our structure that Seagarn has always had. There hasn't been any talks in restructuring it.
I just at one point heard that they were talking about doing something on their own and then, or becoming an entity in itself, if I recall correctly.
There were some conversations about that in the past, but nothing like that has come up again. That was financial purse strings, and even I was involved with some of those talks, and my response to them was there's no way that Effingham County was going to give y'all money for you to spend however you see fit. That we would need to vote in one way or another.
As an entity outside of being directed by any of these bodies.
Correct. As far as changing with other counties coming on board to increasing their numbers from 7 up, that's yet to be seen.
So if I understand it correctly, then this particular upgrade would carry us through 2024, and there would be no other expense besides this increase that you're aware of.
There would be no other increase as far as the SUA2 is concerned.
Okay.
we still have our infrastructure maintenance, and that's why I said in full disclosure, those are separate. Right now, that's wrapped into our P25 system, but that will come to an end in 2018, and you will have another decision whether you want to maintain that maintenance contract or not. And that is our 24/7 tech reports and our emergency response.
And that's the one that we got them to do 5 years.
That is
over
correct.
5 years.
So one is our own maintenance equipment and one is our a joint maintenance with Seagarn as a system itself?
Pretty much, yes.
Think of it as a server.
Yeah, I get it.
In speaking with first responders throughout the county, if you'll look at fact and findings number 2, A through G, no one wants to lose these capabilities.
Well, but if Seagarn doesn't upgrade, we would not lose these capabilities anyway. We would only lose these capabilities if we choose not to upgrade with Seagarn.
That is correct. That is correct. If we
So we can
disconnect,
stay status quo if they do no upgrades whatsoever.
that is correct.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. Why are they wanting to upgrade just to spend more money and make us spend money?
It's they're saving money. Now this is hypotheticals, but if you look at the year 2024 on this chart, and I say in 2024 you are going to spend $3 million to replace your radio system, or you can spend $50,000 every year to maintain it. And at the end of that time, you would still have a new radio system and wouldn't need to replace it. You would save $600,000.
But what keeps us 3 years from now then deciding to go to an SUA 3 or SUA something else?
Well, that would be the contract that we signed that I would bring to you later, at a later time.
That would get us out of this? Because we're upgrading?
I'm sorry.
If we change to go to something else, then it would get us out of this, I think it would be a change, so you wouldn't vote.
I'm sorry, change to what?
If we're doing 50,000 a year,
Yes.
but then we change to like a completely different system, you're saying, what if we decide to go to a different system, we've already allocated this, and I'm just saying that the 50 a year would stop, and
Well, one of the big things that looking at the year 2024 is you have to remember with the P25 system that we just got, we financed that for 10 years. So even if we got a whole brand new system, we're still going to have that payment.
if we did that with the theory that this system would last.
Yes, and it will. You
I
don't,
think we're told a lot more than that, yeah.
2030, correct. But the payments that we have is up till 2024. But you really won't need another system for say, but maintenance is going to be an issue.
All I'm trying to figure out is, I'm basing what I'm looking at here on, do you spend $55,000 a year, or do you spend a lot out there? What keeps Seagarn, or Seymour, or Chatham County, if they're the driving force by it, from in 2 years from now saying, well, we need a SUA 3. And all of a sudden then, in order to still comply, we've got to go along with that. And that might be then $80,000 a year.
Ultimately, the answer to your question is nothing.
We'd have a chance to vote at that time about
You would
what
have,
to do then.
yes, you would have a
Stay
chance to
on or lose.
vote to disconnect from Seagarn again.
We're always going to be up against this, the idea of, are we going to pay for everything ourselves and do it ourselves in some way, or are we going to be part of their system, which is cheaper for us, and what benefits do we have and what do we lose? We're always going to be up against that scenario.
On top of our system, a core, for us to create a core within Effingham County will cost anywhere from $3 to $5 million. And then if you will look at Savannah Chatham's maintenance that they have on their SUA, that would be ours. Instead of their burden, it would become ours.
Yeah, the theory is that we're cost sharing.
Correct.
Now, I've talked to one commissioner from Chatham County, and he's telling me the same thing. Their emergency people are telling them they got to do this. They got to do this. And I can't figure out why, if something is out there working, why you can't use it and not have to do it.
Well, like I said, Chairman, I'm not advocating one way or another. I'm just trying to give you the information so you can make an educated decision.
Well, if H is correct, there's an answer right there. If H is correct. The legal responsible to repay all grant funds and blah, blah, blah. And just.
Yeah, that's $700,000.
If that's correct, then that's the answer. I don't think we want to lose A or B either.
To pay out 700 and get nothing for it, or you pay 600 roughly out over the next, through 2024, or 2024.
So I don't know if I got the answer to my question or not, but can we use BOC funds?
In this particular case, I believe it would be a software upgrade, or the term would be software upgrade.
And or maintenance.
And or maintenance. Who would this be in payment to?
It would be in payment to Motorola, but before we get too far, please keep in mind, I'm not asking for anything other than whether we want to do an SUA or not.
I do know that. I just want to know where the money has to come from, because that's part of the consideration in my.
Okay.
Because funding is not available, not necessarily tonight, but it will be whenever we.
Correct. Well, even H wouldn't actually apply unless we disconnected from Seagarn, and that wouldn't happen unless they went forward and we did not.
In theory, we would only have a year, 2 years to pay for this until the next BOC. So we certainly could put it, no, we couldn't, because it would already be in effect. It would have already taken place.
And I don't necessarily mean, like if we couldn't get the first year in for some reason, but I mean, we got several years of that to pay overall, a good percent of it could that be factored in probably.
I believe as long as it is a software upgrade that we would potentially be able to pay for it out of SPOS. And the fact that I believe, if I recall correctly, we still saved some money within the, and Toss, correct me if I'm wrong, we still put some aside in the short-term work program to be able to pay out an additional year's worth of leave.
And I'm not even saying we have to, I just wanted to understand the different availabilities to us if needed.
Would be one issue. The other place that it could potentially come from is the special tax district fund.
Sure, I understand.
Hypothetically, if Seagarn voted against it, what happens?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, no maintenance contract would go into effect. And then again, we're looking at 2017. We're way ahead of the ball on this one.
But what you're saying is, but the point of it is that nothing happens now, but there isn't a maintenance contract. So it's like anything else that you buy and you don't put maintenance on.
Correct.
What happens when something goes wrong and you don't have maintenance on it? That's what happens. That's what happens. We pay for whatever has to be replaced.
Eventually.
All right, so you're asking for an authorization to vote.
That's correct. Guidance on how.
And you're asking for direction as to how to vote.
I'm asking how the board wishes for me to vote during the next meeting, either for the SUA or against.
Recommendation.
In favor of or against?
But we do have a staff recommendation to approve alternative number 1, correct?
That is correct.
All right, I got a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative number 1, staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Consideration to approve or renew the contract with Stamps.com.
Good evening, Fiona Charlton, purchasing agent. Staff began using Stamps.com in March of 2013, and we have found it to be beneficial in saving time and money by greatly reducing the number of trips to the post office. Stamps.com monthly fee has not increased over the past 2 years and remains at $29.99 per month. The service order is for 1 year from March the 5th, 2015 until March the 5th, 2016, and although there is no termination for convenience clause, the county can terminate at any time, but will be liable for any fees for the remaining term of the contract. The county attorney noted that as the agreement is $29.99 a month, the total potential liability is very low. The county attorney has reviewed and approved the service order with the notation regarding the termination clause. Staff researched alternate online mailing solutions and found Endosia to offer a similar service for $34.95 a month. As funding is approved in the current general fund budget and will be requested in fiscal year 16's budget, staff recommend alternative 1.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question because I just got a solicitation from stamps.com in the mail yesterday. And in the solicitation it said if I sign up for my personal business, then the U.S. government accepts 47 cents rather than, or 48 cents rather than 49, whatever it is. Is that true? I mean, do we actually save on postage? They're saying that 1 cent less if you use stamps.com than if you use.
I haven't seen that.
If you buy the stamp.
Yeah, I haven't seen that for us.
Well, but it's something, I mean, I'm for approving the thing.
We save money because we don't go to the post office.
Right.
I mean, 2 people go once a week.
We save money, but it's something that you ought to look at because if in fact we can get by putting 1 cent less by putting that postage on there through stamps.com, we'd save a lot more than what it's costing.
I'll check into it.
But that's what their solicitation was. The reason for me to sign up was because.
How much were they gonna charge you a month?
Oh, for me, because of the size of the business, it was $14 or something like that a month. It's not worth it to me. I don't send that much postage up. But for us, I know it would mount up.
It makes it a lot easier too. You don't have to mess with all them stamps and all that stuff. All right, $29 something.
Motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. All right. Consideration to execute a revised memorandum of understanding with the Effingham County Board of Education for use of buses.
The county currently has an MOU in place with the Board of Education which provides Effingham County Prison access to 7 buses for the purpose of evacuation in the event of a disaster. The MOU was renewed at the Board of Commissioners meeting on the 5th of August 2014 for the term August 18, 2014 to August 18, 2015 with a request to remove the name of the warden, leaving only the title. The MOU has been corrected per the request of the board, and in addition to removing the warden's name and leaving only the title, the email address has been changed to the county's generic emergency management address, and the term has been changed to align with the county's fiscal year. The only funding required would be reimbursement costs for any damages and or fuel. Any questions?
No questions?
Make a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve alternative 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Consideration to approve a renewing agreement with CGI Communications.
In April of 2012, the board approved an agreement with CGI Communications to create 7 video spots for Effingham County, which are hosted by GCI, with the county providing a link redirecting web visitors to the video spots. The current agreement will expire in April of 2015 and will automatically renew for another 3-year period unless 60 days written notice is given. GCI make their money by selling the advertisements that are showcased around the county videos. The county's content does not include any advertising, and everything pertaining to the video spots is handled by GCI. The county assumes no cost or liability. As no funding is required and the county assumes no cost or liability, staff recommend alternative 1. Any questions?
Anything we get for free, that's good, isn't it?
It is.
What's the motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second. Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Next item, consideration to approve a revised agreement with Transform Health for inmate medical.
On February 3rd, 2015, the board approved renewing the inmate medical contract with Transform Health for 1 year, with the stipulation that the termination clause be decreased from 60 to 30 days. Transform Health provided a new contract with the termination clause decreased to 30 days, and at the request of the staff, they also changed the duration of the contract from a 1-year period, April 2015 to March 2016, to a 15-month period, April 15 to June 16, in order to align with the county's fiscal year. The annual fee of $245,140 approved at the last meeting remains the same, with the additional 3 months being billed at the pro rata rate of $20,428.33 a month, for a total contract value of $306,424.95. The county attorney has reviewed and approved the contract with a note that provision 4.02 requires the county to pay for any necessary medical diagnostic equipment used in inmate care. This provision is currently in the contract we have now with Transform Health as provision 5.03. As funding is approved in the current general fund budget for April to June 2015 and will be requested in the financial year 2016 general fund budget, staff recommends alternative number 1.
I have a question with regard to what the county attorney has noted about the provision 4.02 that requires the county to pay for any necessary medical diagnostic equipment used. Did we receive any extra billing in our past year's statement for any such thing?
The answer to your question is no, ma'am, I do not believe so. In the past, when they have asked for something such as a monitor or something, I believe we purchased that ourselves and placed it there.
Well, that's what I was trying to understand when it says it asks the county to pay for any necessary medical diagnostic equipment used. So they're saying that we may have to actually buy pieces of equipment. That's what I was trying to understand. Rent them, buy them. Yeah. What kind of equipment is it referring to? Like, what kind of cost could it get into? That's trying to understand that.
Anything that they may need over there to evaluate an inmate.
Like an X-ray machine, or
blood pressure cup, any of those things that they use to evaluate.
Anything that they would not be able to take the inmate to the hospital and use? Not any large items. That's what I'm trying to say.
Ma'am?
Not large items.
That's correct.
In other words, they would take them. They take them somewhere else for that type of thing.
I believe the largest thing that we've ever purchased was one of the heart monitors that they sometimes use over there, and I believe a defibrillator that they have on there in case of emergency.
So we've seen that as a non-large item of expense. It hasn't been a concern to us, and we have a history of what that's been.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It was a different spot in the contract. It just jumped out at me.
I checked through to make sure that we had that already.
And what's in our book is a copy of the one that's in existence now. We don't have a copy in here for the proposed.
You were given a new copy?
Well,
I can.
Unless it's in here.
Because I sent both to.
I don't see one. Do y'all have one?
24 pages or something.
Yeah, but this is the one that started April 1st of 2011. Well, the problem that, I think this board was specific, and in the staff report, it tells us that we have a 30-day out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in this that I'm reading.
You don't have the contract that starts on April the 1st, 2015?
No. I've got one.
I didn't catch that either. It's April 20. This is the old one.
The old, because I sent the old one and the new one with my agenda items.
And I meant to ask her before she left.
Did you verify that it was in the new?
It should have been in with your packet. I sent both of them.
Or did you verify the one that we do not have Did you verify that does have the 30-day out?
Yes, yes, oh yeah, that was specific.
Did you receive a copy of it, Elizabeth? Because you were saying
Yeah,
you
it's,
audit the new.
the new agreement is much shorter. It's basically an addendum to the old contract with the new provisions in there, and some other provisions repeated, but it's.
If you got it online, Phil, did you get yours?
That's what I'm trying to, it's just like,
I don't remember seeing it in the materials, but that's because Stephanie emailed it to us separately.
Well, I don't have a problem with renewing it as long as we've got what's in the staff report, the fact that termination clause decreased to 30 days. Because this still has all the 6.02 still has the fact that termination with or without cause agreement may be terminated anytime by either the county 60 days prior to notice, but it also talks about 2 years.
No, that's the old one. Would you like, I can make you copies.
Well, if the board's good with saying that I can execute it, we'll be sure that.
Yeah. I believe it starts on page 12 of 24. It's just combined in there.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
April 1st, 2015.
It's a lot simpler to have an agreement.
It's on page 9, the termination.
We don't have the same numbers as you. The new contract starts.
The blue page number, the line.
So Elizabeth, y'all have looked at this?
Yes.
Page 20 and 24.
Yeah.
This puts it at the 15 months commencing this.
30 days, 30 calendar days.
5.02.
Notice. Okay, so it changed the non-renewal to 30 days rather than 60, but then it gives 5.02 says that either side can terminate with or without cause. Of written notice. All right. I'm good. Y'all good? Motion?
Make a motion that we approve staff recommendation on committee number 1.
Second.
Motion on second, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment about the stamps? The election board needs to have their own stamp machine. I wish one of y'all or two of y'all would go over there and look into this. I know that they don't want any part of it, but I tell you, they really need it, especially with your election coming up for 2016. If y'all would just look into that, please. Thank you.
Next item. Consideration to approve the first reading to amend Article, what is that, 7? Section 7.1 of the Effingham Code of Ordinances and to amend the planning board's bylaws.
The planning board is currently constituted of 5 members representing each of the 5 districts, and 3 at-large members are appointed with a recommendation by each of the 3 cities. While those 3 cities have not directly appointed a member in quite some time, we don't really remember how long, and it's been a while since we've done that. At times it's difficult to fill all 8 seats with people. There's currently not one in the 4th district serving right now. reducing from 8 to 5 members would save approximately $3,600 a year in amounts that they're paying for their meetings and training and so forth. Each of the 3 cities were asked if they had an opinion one way or the other or not appointing people from their particular cities. Springfield has no issue with that. Guyton was opposed to it, and Rankin is yet to respond. And the planning board, this went before the planning board on January 26th, who voted against reducing the membership from 8 to 5. Now, the planning board only got the bylaws, not the ordinance. You're being asked to look at both, because ordinance changes not within the purview of the planning board, but the bylaw changes are. Basically, what you have in front of you is changes to both the ordinance that creates the planning board as well as the bylaws of which they operate under. Again, the main change is changing the membership from 5 to 8 and going from 5 appointed by the commissioners. I'm sorry, from 8 to 5 in 3 of the cities up to just 5 by the commissioners. And it's notable at this point that the county has absolutely no representation on any of the city's planning boards. There are the bylaws, again, that's the main change to the ordinance. When you get to the bylaws, you have 2 different copies in here. You have a proposed change and the old bylaws. There's no strike through because basically the bylaws are so far out of what we currently operate as, there wasn't much salvageable in there. We just basically started over. So you'll see a whole new set of bylaws that actually reflects the way the planning board operates today, rather than the way that it operated whenever these bylaws were originally created.
Question? Comment?
The only comment that I have, I think I might have mentioned it in the past when it was first brought up, it did seem to make sense to me that possibly by having more members to vote than districts, we've actually given 2 votes to some districts. And it could be one way of looking at it. I think it cleans it up to just have the same amount of representation on the planning board as even on the county commission. Personally, I agreed with it when it was brought up. Unless somebody else had a different point.
I can't understand why.
They haven't, I don't know.
Why there's 8 to be in.
The bylaws actually call for 9, I believe, and I think maybe the chairman or somebody serves as an ex officio member. It's, again, we're not operating in the
much of the bylaws.
Correct.
That's right.
Did y'all? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Another subject.
Yeah.
Anybody feel good enough to give me a motion?
Make a motion to approve professional staff recommendations.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Consideration to approve budget amendment for personnel and travel for the 2014-15 budget.
As you know, we have been trying to do our budget amendments either at the time of the action of the board or readily thereafter. What you see tonight is a series of budget amendments that involve both staffing issues and also too mandates from the state regarding different pay rates and personnel. Along with, I included the additions for the per diem and travel. As you know, we currently budget within Department 15 our per diem and travel and training. We then move those funds to the various departments as the administrator approves those funds. And we try to do that on a quarterly basis. The set of budget amendments that you have in front of you involves staffing. The other involves per diem travel and training. The first one that is before you basically moves to the various budgets from the administrative Department 15 to cover the cost of the current per diem and travel. We made one earlier this year, and these are the amounts subsequent to that. The second item and resolution amends the budget regarding various personnel items. Those include, as you recall, the administrative position with the sheriff. That position reports to and is within Department 17, so we are moving that funding where we're cost sharing that from Department 15 into the sheriff's budget. We said that we would review that after a period of 6 months, and we believe that that cost sharing amount is about split between us and the sheriff. We also had state mandated changes for the elected officials, probate, superior court, magistrate, commissioners, tax commissioner, and sheriff. Those particular changes are in here. We also have reviewed the engineer position. We have talked about in the past moving and sharing, cost sharing that particular position in Department 15. We believe that that particular position, which actually in the past, if you recall, we had a civil engineer, a county engineer, and a engineer tech. We currently have a engineer grade 3, I believe, currently, and this would move the funding that is currently within water, sanitation, and SPOS projects to cover the cost of the civil engineer in Department 15. We also have made the cost sharing moves for the building maintenance and the animal shelter personnel within this particular budget limit. The staff also would like to seek and gain concurrence from the commissioners regarding several of the staffing structures that we have. As you know, and as in the staff report, we have tried our best to consolidate staff and to move staff into one building to be able to service our public and citizens. In doing so, we do have one open administrative position. As you know, for the last few months, we have been trying to cost share or share the administrative clerk position, and by that I mean the receptionist position, between purchasing and reception. That particular piece of it has not worked as well as we would like. We believe that there are significant gains into having a person designated for purchasing to help oversee many of the things that we're doing now that we haven't done in the past. Let me give you some examples of that. For instance, we just finished converting over to the WEX program. That was an effort on the part of purchasing and finance, and actually finding that program and making that conversion that would have not been possible without that additional administrative staff. We believe that alone over the next year will save us somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 a month, or about 40 grand. The same held true with the move that we made for the meals within the prison, where we saved right about $450,000 to $500,000. We are now doing those bids annually. We're doing extensive contract reviews, just the time to make sure that those contracts are in adherence, and to review those contracts each year is significant. I'll give you another example. For instance, this morning we were on a conference call regarding the prison meals, and if it hadn't been for the additional staff to be able to do some of the research that we needed to do on food indexes and so forth, we would not have been as fully prepared to be able to negotiate that contract again this year. So we believe that we need to put that additional time there. The second piece is to basically solidify being able to take the open civil engineer's position, and we would like to see that position filled in the next few months. We believe that having that position filled will poise us to be able to handle the new recreation project while providing cost savings within that project, and being able to handle the other pieces that have been handled by that position in the past. That basically would mean that we would have a civil engineer and an engineer grade 3, rather than having a county engineer, a civil engineer, and a tech. And so we seek your consensus with those additional staffing moves, both of which are within this budget amendment and applicable to your approval this evening.
Still a consolidation of employees. We'll have lessons way back when it started.
That's correct. Lessened, and I believe we actually have been able, in consolidation of those duties, to be able to accentuate the times that people are here, to provide better service, to allow for cross-training, so that one person isn't the only person that can do that particular function. And all of that's been applicable to being able to move those people within one central area.
And I'll just say, you know, we talked about for years when I first took office that we needed a central place for somebody to be in charge of being sure we had our contracts renewed properly. We did not, I asked for our automobile inventory list. There was not one. It was not a comprehensive one correctly. And all of those things have been put together while making these changes and reductions and cross-staffing. So there's definitely proof of vast improvement there. And I think I'm in favor of it.
Yes, ma'am. For instance, this morning when we were on that conference call, having the time to review that information and the percentage that they were wanting for an increase versus the information that we were able to gain was quite helpful. And I think that's the piece of it that we've been missing in the past, is being able to, you know, not only do those contracts the first time, but to actually review and to ensure that year after year that we're getting the best possible purchase.
Just so that I'm clear, we actually have two different resolutions here.
Correct.
The first one, you're just taking the money out of pot 15 and redistributing where it was actually spent, correct?
That's correct. The per diem and travel and training is simply pulling that out of Department 15 and moving that into the various departments, correct?
This is not funding, it's just simply putting on record where the money was spent.
That's correct. Rebudgeting, reappropriating.
Making the budget amendments as they're occurring instead of waiting till the end of the year.
That's correct. That's what we're trying to do.
All right. The other resolution, that's the one where you're talking about redistributing the personnel?
Yes, sir, and that's part of what we've already been doing with y'all's concurrence in the past as we've made each one of these steps. And it's basically redirecting those funds, showing people in that particular area where they are and where they have now been performing. One of the reasons why I wanted to go ahead and do this right now, not only was because of the state mandates that had come through, but also too, we were right in the middle of the budget time. And so if we go ahead and make these maneuvers and make these budget changes now, then the sheets that y'all will be getting during the budget time will already lay these pieces out. So that y'all will get what was in last year's budget, you know, and then we've got to make a whole series of changes before we ever get started in the current budget. And this will allow us to make those changes on the sheet so that you will see it as it stands right now.
I misread this to begin with. When I looked at this thing at first glance, I saw overall budget reduction, $74,000. I said, oh, goody, we've saved $74,000. That's not the case. Department 15 is being reduced by $74,000.
Well, overall, when you take the 79 and the 33, I believe it is a net change of $74,000.
Okay.
The reason why I wanted to be sure that y'all showed that and that y'all were applicable to that is, if you recall, during the time that we actually made the first budget, we said that during the year that we were going to make these shifts with your concurrence. And in doing so, our hope was that we would reduce at least 2 positions. And if you recall, we subtracted out $100,000 out of the budget to show that that was our intent, to reduce the overall personnel cost by that $100,000. And what I was trying to show in separating these budget amendments was that we are basically 75% of the way there.
Okay. So this will get us fill the engineering position that's still on the books out there.
Yes, sir, the civil.
At what number? 60,000?
I left it at the amount that had been there in the past, and I believe the total compensation was around 75, but that would be whatever this board chooses. I left it in there at the top range so that we could get someone who was could come in and work to make that shift from the duties that Toss now is still carrying, and have somebody who had the expertise to step right in.
So instead of having the 2 engineers, we've got the engineer grade 3.
That's correct, and a civil engineer.
And a civil engineer.
The difference is that we would be putting that civil engineer in Department 15 and then turn around and cost sharing that out to water and sewer, to sanitation, to SPLOST, you know, as far as what projects and things that person's working on.
Having better flexibility.
That's correct.
Hoss, do you feel like we need to leave that at an upper range of 75 to get somebody to do that? Because I think you and I were talking around 60.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't know what it's at. I guess it was at the same pay grade that it originally sat at, which was probably somewhere a little above that. I mean, we making, rush it in here. I don't know if we can decrease a pay grade and start advertising and see where we end up. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why we couldn't. And if y'all approve a position, why we couldn't hire at a lesser pay grade.
Well, then we get, instead of 75% there, we
get a lot closer.
I left it as flexible as we could make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I just want to be sure everybody knows what they're voting for.
And I'd be okay with leaving y'all with that flexibility.
But there again, I think what I heard you want to say was total compensation, which is going to include benefits. What you and I were talking about was not total compensation.
That includes benefits, and that's where it's got to be.
Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase that. That is the salary portion of it that does not include benefits.
I know, wrong. So yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
I don't disagree with what you and I talking about. We can try to shoot that a little bit lower and see what we can get.
My question was, could we get somebody for that? I agree with you.
If y'all approve this, we'll start trying to find out tomorrow.
I would love that. All right. Anybody else?
So you need, how many separate votes do we need? We got 2 resolutions?
Unless somebody has exception with that, and if everybody's agreeing to vote on both at one time, I think they're offered as a package, so I think we can vote on them as a package.
Mr. Chairman, if I could muddy the water one more tiny bit, if y'all are fine with this particular portion of it. If there's no further questions. You also have a budget amendment in your folders up there. What we have is a situation of water and sewer right now where there was no money in SPLOST approved at the last, there was no SPLOST money approved in the last referendum. So there's really no funding mechanism outside of general maintenance. Well, the project that we did on Goshen, the Hodgeville, that wet well replacement, has pretty much used up all of our maintenance funds. So we have quite a bit of year left for no more maintenance. Right now I have a pump station on Goshen Road that had 5 horsepower pumps in it that were running 23 hours a day. The power bill ranged between $450 and $600 a month. Flight has put a single 10 horsepower pump in there. The power bill has dropped to around $60 a month. We need to replace those pumps because they're cycling through every couple hours like they're supposed to.
Did you say 450 a month to 60 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
When it dropped down to 60?
Yes.
Yeah, we need to replace.
So we definitely need to replace those pumps, but I have no money to do it. It's unbudgeted. That's $12,500 roughly. There is an issue we have with a lateral underneath the road on Saratoga Lane, 109 Saratoga, that stopped up. It's been a whole big issue. There's insurance claims filed. We need to replace that lateral. It's my belief that we probably should not be doing in-house because it's going to require open cut in the road under traffic. I just don't believe we have the equipment to do it. Right now, we have a number of $87,500, basically $8,800 to replace that. We have a pump station in South Bend that multi-trades went out in, that they have rigged up to work off the high alarm and the high level and low level alarms, which is not an ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination. Long story short, we have close to $50,000 worth of unbudgeted items right now. I've asked Aaron today to get me another list. He believes there's probably another 50 out there of things that are not close to death that are dead. So what I'm saying to y'all is, the pumps on Goshen can wait. Their flights, they're reminding us that we need to replace them, but it can wait. The alarms can wait a little bit. That's about $1,800. The $8,700 really cannot. I'm scared that these people are staying in a hotel room right now and it's going to get even worse. We need to go ahead and replace those. So we can do that as an emergency purchase and notify y'all in the next board meeting. I'm notifying y'all now, or you can look at that amendment, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
I'm going to ask council to advise me, because this is advertised to approve budget amendments for personnel and travel. I think that we would have to add this as another item to take it up to pass it. Personally, I don't feel good about adding this in with these two that we're considering. And personally, I would rather you get the rest of your numbers together. We take it as staff report, make the $8,700 on emergency purchases, which is under our guidelines, and let's take it up next meeting and have the additional numbers. That's my opinion.
And I agree with you, Chairman. I just want to in all do.
That is why we allow the emergency purchase in the first place, to kind of give you enough way to do what you have to do.
But I don't have a problem with taking both of these up unless the commissioner has a problem with one resolution or the other, because this is what's advertised. This is travel and this is personnel. I think we can take this up as one item.
Those resolutions in one vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, just make it clear in the motion which we'll be voting on, and you can vote on it.
Without exception, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can somebody give me a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve alternative number 1, the budget amendments for personnel in second quarter. And both items that's been presented to us for travel and personnel.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to amend the rules of procedure for the Effingham County Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of meetings ago, the board gave staff the instructions to move forward with placing both first and second readings on the same agenda so they can be handled at the same time. So there's really no ordinance changes to do that, but there was nothing in your board policies that spoke either way to second readings. So we went in and changed that with the addition of section G, section readings, which you use the name there. And the other things are under order of business. Apparently we missed some of this in the last time y'all approved it. We changed a few things in there to get rid of executive session and planning board presentments and move it down farther in order. Change the date from Wednesday to Thursday, which I believe we did the first time. And then basically second readings just says that the process for second readings, agendas will include both first and second readings consecutively for consideration by the board. The second reading will be heard if the first reading passes unanimously and without any additional stipulations or requirements. The reason for that was so that y'all see if there's additional stipulations, you see in writing, you know, what you're voting on. If not approved unanimously or there are additional stipulation requirements, the second reading will be tabled to the next regular scheduled meeting. That's basically the change.
Seems like a good starting point if nothing else to give us time to see how that works. If nothing changes, there's definitely not any reason to not do it that particular night.
So if there was issues or opposition with the item at hand, there would be there would be a space between the first and second reading.
Correct. According to your policy, it would automatically be tabled to the following meeting.
It depends on what you call issues. If people bring up issues, but if we vote unanimously to make the motion as presented, then we take a second vote. But if any of us make a motion to add any item or change any item or anything like that, then it would.
Or if it's not a unanimous vote.
If it's not unanimous.
That's the way the policy is
Any
written.
one commissioner could create it, it needs to go to the next meeting.
I like that.
And again, that way you see what you're voting on. In other words, if you add a stipulation, it's in writing in front of you when you go to vote on it. We can't do that on the fly between the first two items, so it needs to be tabled to the next one. You'll get your first one very soon because I got to make another amendment to the photo ones.
And that'll save a lot of time for people when there is no concern. This has been a long time coming, 4 years.
Any question, discussion, motion?
I'm gonna make a motion to approve as presented.
Have a motion. And a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Who's here?
Who seconded it? Bill?
Bill and Reggie. Bill was first.
Bill did it first.
All right, next item, consideration to accept the roads and drainage infrastructure in Hunter's Chase subdivision.
Mr. Chairman, the Hunter's Chase subdivision was constructed somewhere in 2004, and to date, none of the infrastructure within that subdivision has been transferred to Effingham County. It does have Effingham County water system and septic systems, but it's Effingham County water within that subdivision also. There's approximately $664.36 in taxes owed, which appears a little over 44 is penalties and interest accrued during the last 3 years. Ask Public Works to go out and take a look at the damages it provided for the cost to repair them, and it would appear there's a couple of spots right now that are having issues. This is an ash base road with asphalt on top of it, that it's heaving and doing different things, and they estimated about $4,500 to patch the worst areas, the ones that are requiring attention immediately, and that ultimately this being an ash-based road, if history is any indication of every other one we've had in this county, it will fail in its totality. The entire thing will have to be repaired at some point, and to date, the only thing that we have found to work is grind it, put surface treatment back on top of it. The asphalt, any way we've tried it, hasn't panned out. So they estimated about $70,000 to do that. And honestly, that's based on the numbers from the last round of ash road repair we did with the grinding and the surface treatment going back on top of that. So basically, there's a couple alternatives. Again, it is an ash base. It's starting to show signs of failure. If history's any indication, the entire thing will fail at some point. Staff recommends not accepting the infrastructure, and it's simply because of the precedent that I'm afraid is going to set with this one. You've got Colebrook Plantation, Colebrook Court, and Shadowbrook. That's basically the same situations. To date, of all the roads that y'all have authorized staff to pursue, and the ones that we've taken, we've only spent money in one. That was Parkway Place, and we got a requisite amount from the bank to do that. They handed us a $5,000 check. We made $5,000 worth of repairs. The other one will be Caribbean Village Drive. We have not yet made those. Those will be done in the ash road. The paved road we're surfacing coming up next spring. The damages there were estimated somewhere between 120 to 150. We got a check for $100,000 from Park West. The difference in that funding came from money that we owed the developers in Caribbean Village. So to date, we have not spent really any money on these roads. But of course, that being said, it's completely up to the board how you want to proceed.
On this Hunter's Chase, now, I need to ride back over there, but I was over there about a month ago, and I'm the one that brought this up.
Yes.
And there was only 2 bad places in there, and I told Jerry about it, and he went and looked at it. It is an ash base, but the top of it, the chip and seal, is cracked, but the ash is not coming through. The rest of the roads is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got a hump over there that's about 18 inches in one of those cul-de-sacs, and then one of them on the curb there, and I don't think it'd take that much to fix it.
And again, that was his 4,500 that he estimated. How he came up with that.
How many homes are in there?
But the rest of the road is in good shape.
Understand?
It's cracked on top, but the ash is not coming through.
Yes, sir.
And you wouldn't have to grind it either. I think, it's been lasting all this time. I believe it'd be good for 2 or 3 more years if we fix that hump in it. And then when you first turn off a Little McCall Road, it needs a little rock work there. And then when you turn in one cul-de-sac, there's a hole there about, I don't know, 4 foot square that needs fixing. The biggest thing is that hump in the middle that goes all the way across the road.
Yes,
I told Jerry I could fix that in a day's time.
I don't disagree. All I said is, if history is any indication, the entire road is going to fail at some point, like
It
every
is,
single other one
but we
does.
got a lot of ash road that's in a lot worse shape than that road is.
Who owns the road?
Did you look at it?
Chase Inc.,
Who is that?
Greg House.
How many homes are in there?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that's part of it. I don't think the homes have sold at risk days, so I think that's probably why there's not a whole lot of extensive damage in there. There's not a tremendous amount of homes in it.
So Greg's not paying the taxes, and he's not made any arrangements to do any repairs or made any...
He's not going to do anything on it.
He's not gonna do
And the
anything.
bank owns the lots and he owns the road. We own the rest of it. So nobody's going to do anything in there. But that one hump in there, we need to take that out some way. If we don't accept it, we need to do something.
Well, we can.
Have you been in there?
We can on private property.
No, sir, I asked Eric. I did not go in there. Now, we've had another one recently in Shadowbrook where there's some storm drains leaking.
I know that's terrible, but it's not near the bad shape as Shadow.
I understand what I'm saying. There's a storm drain leaking that's about to cause the road to collapse, and that's a whole other issue. I don't know where that leads us, quite frankly. We've never accepted those roads. But if that happens and a road falls through, I don't know if we have liability.
Well, let me ask you this. This was that same scenario, and I didn't get to mention to you in time. It just struck me. In the past, I had asked that we pull the minutes of the last meetings and see what was voted on when we took the title so we could consider what was done before. And we don't have that tonight. Can we just table
I
this?
don't. I looked in 2004. I can't find them easily. I don't have to get Stephanie to pull.
Can we just table this to the next meeting?
That's what I'm saying. I'd like to table this because I'm going to go back over there and I might come pick you up today and we'll ride over there and look at it. I think we can fix a couple of things and the rest of it will last for a couple of years unless I'm really fooled.
Well, some of those facts of what was voted on previously could matter as well, so I'd be in favor of tabling it if that's okay with everybody.
Give me a motion.
And I'll make another trip back over there and look at it and I might pick you up, but that hump needs to come out of it.
Okay.
He asked for a motion. Do you want to make
Motion to table.
Make a motion to table to the next meeting.
I'll second.
You want to wait till I'll give me plenty of time. I'll come by one day and we'll go over there and look at it.
Okay,
Because
now,
I didn't think it was in that bad a shape.
and the only problem that you have to remember to the next meeting is we have to resolve this by Thursday.
Let's
2
do
days
it.
from now.
Let's do it one.
Second meeting in
Okay.
March.
You amend your
Yeah.
motion?
Second meeting.
Be March 17th.
Yes, March 17th.
I'll second.
Motion and second to table this item to March 17th meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? So table. Consideration to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Guyton for the operation of Griffin Lakes Fire Station.
There's a large Class 10 area which provides absolute no reduction in ISO or homeowners insurance rates that exist. Well, there's several in the county. There's one open in the Griffin Lakes station would take care of. This area will go away when Tusculum is opened, but in the meantime, there was basically a station at Griffin Lake, and when it was closed in 2010, those people basically lost the reduction they had previously seen because of that station in anticipation of Tusculum opening. But between 10 and now, Tusculum was supposed to be built and service delivery as part of that agreement, so the delay in time has caused a little bit of issue to people, and there's several that have voiced their concerns over this recently. People that are on fixed income, this is hurting tremendously. But there was a station, it was Guyton Station that Guyton operated. Again, they ceased operating it in 2010. It does have a deed reversionary clause that should it stop being operated as a fire station, that it reverts back to the previous owners, their heirs or assigns. We've done some due diligence in trying to track them down. I believe that the daughter of Mr. Lamb is living in Texas. She's 80 years old, and we have been unable to reach her. Clint's also reached out to her son and still hasn't heard anything. So we've been unable to reach any of the heirs or assigns. The original gentleman is deceased now, Mr. Lamb, that gave the property to the city. But basically, the property's less than an acre that it would take, for anything to operate on. I can't really imagine what anybody else would do with this particular property. But there is a question of ownership in this station. So what we proposed for the board is enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Guyton. We would basically pay the power bill through the term of this. The IGA is for a year. We wouldn't anticipate being that long. The Tusculum station is on this agenda. If the board approves that, it's a 120-day contract. They have 10 days from the date of notice to proceed, which presumably will be the night if you approve it. So within 130 days, that station should be operational, at which time we would cease operating, Griffin Lake. This is a stopgap measure in that interim period to help reduce some of people's homeowners insurance rates.
I asked Elizabeth prior to the meeting how she felt about the opinion about the question mark that's coming into play about the ownership issue. And basically, I think she concurs, so if I say something wrong, don't hesitate to correct me, that basically the ownership issue, if there is one, will fall in Guyton's lap, because that's where the question might be. And if that were to take place, if we did this, then the worst case scenario for us should be that somebody would come up and say, y'all gotta get out today. And we'd be like, okay.
I mean, pay a rent on it to do something.
Well, Guyton took this issue up on the 10th, and they approved this intergovernmental.
Talk, well, before you ask him that question, I'm gonna have to talk. On that contract, on the Tusculum station, one place is 120 days, but the last thing that sign, it's got 180 days on it.
But it should be 120, I apologize. I must have missed
That's
that.
to that with.
Okay.
Clint Hodges? Tell me this, do we need an intergovernmental agreement in order to get ISO to give the better ratings for the citizens? If we just put equipment in there, and Guyton says okay, and we just put the equipment in there, can we get the citizens the rate reduction without the agreement?
I thought Skip mentioned it.
I know we have to actually, we will have to actually call the state in, and they will have to recognize it as a station, which I believe I can get here in about a week. I talked to Standards and Training earlier. As far as the actual agreement, being the city does own it,
No, the city doesn't own it.
well,
they in charge.
That's my question. I don't know that the city of Guyton has the authority to enter into the agreement.
Well, if we
that's
don't,
bigger.
then we gotta take
I think it puts us in a better position with the ownership to have the
we take liability if we don't, they're taking liability under that scenario in my opinion, and then if we don't, then we just take it.
I think by creating the agreement and entering into it, Guyton's sort of holding themselves out as owning it.
Correct.
Even though by looking at the deed, I think it's pretty clear that they don't. And by doing that, we're giving us an extra layer of protection by entering into the agreement versus just going in and putting it.
She was saying they did own it, and then it said the deed automatically reverts back away from them when it became vacant. So that's the place of the question mark about where they don't own it. But then nobody came up and said we own this property now either, so it's been sitting there dormant. So there's a question mark, but the question mark lies with them, and I think we should let it lie with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's clearly the intent of the original owner that property be used for the Warrior Fire Station for the benefit of the citizens. So I think in that
was the goal. Yeah.
And the intergovernmental agreement actually, the duration is a year, but it will terminate upon the completion of the Tusculum Fire Station. So once that's complete, agreement is done with, it doesn't go on for the entire year.
Is the power turned on now?
Did you know, Phil?
I don't think so. We haven't gotten anything, I haven't seen anything.
Well, the city of Guyton would have been paying it.
No, it was off. I thought I asked to get it turned on, so.
Okay.
And if we vote to do this, we can move forward. We're getting the state in to
Yes.
do the evaluation of this. Okay.
And we're not putting, everything's good.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you go into enter into agreement where there's a serious question as to who owns the property, but given the circumstances and the fact that staff has reached out to the heirs and nobody has made any sort of attempt to claim the property or allege any sort of damages, I think the likelihood of something going wrong is fairly low, and it's a necessary stopgap measure. So.
And I agree with Phil. I mean, I think the original intent was to help the citizens out, obviously, to donate the property, so.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we're going to build that survey rating out.
All right, somebody give me a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
I'll second. Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Consideration to award a contract and issue a notice to proceed for Effingham Metal Building, Tusculum Fire Station, and J.L. Harden Incorporated, DBA Harco Construction.
Mr. Chairman, I may need to step down from this. Talking with costs is possible, but I have family that may be involved with construction, but I did not know about the costs. Not immediate. And it's probably, should I step down? It's questionable, but I feel comfortable.
It's questionable. I think
I've learned that.
it's probably best if there's any sort of question about it, just to step down and say something.
You have a brother who is going to be
A cousin.
a cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably best. All right.
Okay. This is contract notice to proceed for the Tusculum station that we were just referring to. As y'all are aware, this has been in planning for quite some time. We are now requesting to let the entire project to one contractor for the building and the site work. Our request for quote was bid all of our normal avenues. We received 11 different bids. J.L. Harden was the low bidder with a bid price of $247, and everything come back in accordance with the bids. And it has been a lot of conversation circulating around this recently. Obviously, J.L. Harden is a site work contractor. He's not a building. He does not have a license for building structure vertical construction. But there were 2 licenses required here. One was a utility contractor, and the other one was a general contractor to be able to pull the building permit. He does have on board a licensed general contractor to pull a building permit, which is what Mr. Kiefer was referring to. It's a Scott Kiefer, the builder in that will actually pull the building permit. So both of those licenses are there. We're just, the prime on this would not be that person. And I think some of that's centered around the fact that this is a metal building with very little inside of it. There's a bathroom that's framed up, T111 sides, and that's about it that's in there. There's a sink and a toilet. So the actual cost of the building in relation to the cost of the site work is roughly equal to or less than the site work, quite frankly. We are requiring a payment performance bond. They will provide that to us so that the project will be fully bonded. There will be licenses for all different disciplines, although it will not be held, prime contractor will not be AGC, it will be site contractor.
And the performance bond, that would be in the name of J.L. Harden?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They will provide payment performance bonds in this.
I brought up the question because it initially concerned me that typically a general contractor is responsible for the entire job. But I think, from my understanding, the answer that Fiona got from the Attorney General's office today, as long as there's anybody who did it at all, that's what I'm hearing that the answer was, as long as that person carries the bond. And then all the other parts that are needed have a license. So it seems to me, and that's all I cared about, was that we covered doing things appropriately.
Now, we did have $165,000 in the short-term work program for this. 247 is obviously greater than that. So it would require balancing of the short-term work program. These are SPOS dollars that would come from. You will also be presented with an agreement to merge, I guess, forces with the city of Springfield, which we're getting dangerously close on. That went to the attorneys sometime the end of last week. It's now circulating. I don't think it's reached ours yet. The city sent it to theirs, and when they're done, they're going to send it to y'all to review, and then ultimately back to the board and council. We as staff don't really see a reason that won't work out. There's still some details, but I think that'll work. In that agreement, if we do, we end up with some equipment from the city of Springfield, one of which is a truck that we would put in Tusculum, which replaces a truck that was in the short-term work program at $175,000. So there is money there within the fire portion of it to be used, we believe. It's just balancing some of that around. So with that being said, we would ask y'all to go ahead and approve this contract with the understanding that within the total sum of money that y'all have previously approved for fire between apparatus, loose equipment, and buildings, we still think we can deliver those within that total dollar figure.
Y'all will change the notice to proceed to be 120 days rather than...
If it says 180, yes, sir, I'll make that change. I apologize.
Page 7, it's got 180 days, and up here it's got 120.
Yeah, it should be 120. Yeah. So
I figured that. I figured it was a typo, but anyway.
Yeah.
That's 60 days longer.
We'll back them up.
Messed my mind up, but anyway.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody good? Motion?
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. The record showed that Commissioner Kiefer was abstained. Recused. Keep it straight. All right. Have I missed anything? All right. Staff reports. Joanna, you got anything?
Just your financials. Y'all can take one and pass them.
Got any comments you want to make on this?
No, sir, we're right on target. You will see the budget amendments that have been made in the past, not tonight's, of course, because you had not approved them yet, within these financials. You know, if you have any questions, concerns, or issues, please give us a call. We're glad to go through them.
All right, thank you. Short and sweet. Deanna? You set it up, eh? Set. Any other staff in here besides Carl? Clint said he was over there shaking his head.
He's wrong, he is staff.
What you got, Toss?
Attached is your monthly fire report for the month of January. ACG annual conference, the 2015 annual conference will be held April 17th to 20th, at the Van Nash Trade Prevention Center. Lifelong Learning Academy, Friday, April 17th, and Monday, April the 20th. I think we discussed this last time. You have, again, the agenda and the list of classes in here. I think what we're looking for more than anything is y'all's registration information to get over to the clerk so she can get y'all registered and booked in the correct classes. IDA board appointments, I'll leave it here just as a reminder. I know y'all are all thinking about that. When you're ready, we'll put that on the agenda. The Effingham Parkway PIOH, we got it straightened out now. It is now going to be March the 18th. And that will be at this building at the other end now in the social hall, I guess, on the other end from 4 to 6.
How will that proceed?
How will it proceed?
Yeah, I mean,
it's an informal open house where people can walk through and ask questions. There's no formal presentation. There'll be boards of the alignment as it exists today, some documents as they are. There'll be representatives of GDOT and Board of Housing here to answer questions. But it's an informal, there's no scheduled speech or talk or presentation, if you will. It's just a very informal presentation. There will be 4 different signs that we're ordering right now that will be put up. We'll have one on Goshen, somewhere around where the corridor is. We'll put one at the end of Forest Haven that'll catch all Forest Haven, Moss Loop, Swirl Run, all that in the back. We'll put one on Blue Jay where it terminates and comes back out. And probably put one on 21 somewhere going out to county where everybody catches it. And it will run twice, maybe 3 times in the payroll also.
So is GDOT, they're actually heading this meeting?
We're supposed to be headed up.
Okay.
It's supposed to be our meeting because it's a local led project, but or because we're handling the PD on it. But we will have a GDOT project manager. There'll be a dry run, if you will, going through it. We'll coordinate with them. And I'm also meeting with Nathaniel Panther this Thursday to discuss determinants with the 2 of these meet at 30 to make sure we're telling the same information, to make sure we're not, because there's been some changes to where that has and what it looks like through the process, and them being a little bit ahead of us, we want to make sure we're saying the same thing of what these projects look like. So we're coordinating with Chatham County also, and he's also invited GDOT and our people to show up for that meeting as well.
Yeah, they've got new survey stops out on 30, and it looked like they've moved some.
I haven't went by and looked at them. I don't know if they're center line or control is what they are. They may be off to one side of the alignment. They may be hunting an easier way through. I don't know. I know that they're working on the survey and the environmental document they have to do the ecology out there now. We've coordinated with them on some of that. Road resurfacing list. Ms. Joanna brought it to my attention that because of the time that this thing will actually, by the time we let it and complete the project, it will actually span fiscal years, meaning it'll go beyond June into July. So I asked y'all, and y'all so diligently worked on paring that list down. Now I'm telling you, I think we just need to do the whole list. That was originally presented y'all for roughly $4 million. There's roughly $4 million of funding. Now understand that will be both fiscal years, so what we do June and July will have to last till the following June.
Did you go over that? Did you go over that with Commissioner Loper because he was gone on the list? Remember?
I did not. The last meeting that you were not present, we came up and decided to take out rows 4, 6, and 7 or something. I was just before sending an email to everybody saying this is what we're going to drop from that list. When Joanna said, "Well, why don't we just do the whole list?" Because it'll span fiscal years. We believe the cash flow will work out. So if everybody's fine, I believe that list should still be attached in here somewhere.
Oh, so the list has changed from what we?
No.
Well,
I
it's
just
the
put it back
same
in.
list.
So that everybody's clear, it's the same list, page
Same
948.
We were not going to do Oliver Kildare, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And we were not going to do Old Dixie Highway.
And Little McCall, 2, 4, and 6 were the ones.
Okay.
The only thing about Little McCall is I think we need to get aggressive in that realignment before we spend money that we maybe have to tear it back out.
Oliver, did we say we were going to patch a bad spot?
We did, but what I'm saying now is, with the board approval, I'd like to just do that whole road.
It's bad.
You see, it's 4.17 million, we had 4, so we're 174 off. We hope that we'll lose that in the bid process, so we'll gain that. But I mean, we're
So you
close.
don't try to do that?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm asking y'all for now. Now, what we could do is drop number 4, Little McCall Road, based on what the chairman's saying, because we're trying to pursue some realignment issues in there. But we could bid this entire list minus number 4, which will definitely get us to $4 million. So I think it's actually 3.9. I think it's 2.5 and 1.4, so it's actually 3.9.
We're just spanning 2 fiscal years in order to get the funds to be able to do the whole list.
Yeah, I told Thomas, why are we going to double effort and double trouble to bid twice? You know, as long as cash flow allows, let us do what we can on that list.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Because all we do is bid what's left off the list, so.
The only thing that I said to Toss was, please, like Jay Bez, that's got a lot of school traffic and Collie Kelvin, just be sure we do it after school gets out and before school goes in.
Yeah,
I don't think maybe the 119 the state.
The railroad crossings in Rankin have been a big problem, particularly with Lambert.
Yeah. So if that's all right with the board, that's what we'll proceed forward with it. Do y'all want to leave 4 in or not? Little call. Because again, we got 3.9, we're showing 4.1, so we're 200,000, almost 300,000 over to begin with. So
I think we need to leave 4 out myself.
Can you leave it in and pull it out?
We can do it as an ad alternate.
I mean, I'm just.
Well, I think the reason the chairman's looking at it is because we had talked in the past about doing some realignments of Little McCall to make Little McCall and Ron Station
tie together.
Align, instead of being offset, to align those and to maybe flatten out some of the curves in that section where it's very sharp curves, so that then, you know, does that Y that always existed in the parkway, it gets you back to 119. So you'd have McCall and that road.
I just hate to put asphalt down just to have to tear it back up, or if we're going to realign the road within the next period of time.
So if there's no objections, I'll take 4 out of this list. We'll bid this list as it sits, which should get us towards our $3.9 million.
And hopefully it'll come in less than that.
Okay. So yeah, again, Mr. Local wasn't here, I was gonna send that out to everybody, and that's when it changed. So
I didn't know the roads, we went back to all the roads, that's
correct. Yeah. So, bid results for surplus mowers, you have in here, should be the very next page, I would assume, page 10. Yeah, page 10 of 48 is the bid results where we surplus mowers. In the past, the board has asked, you know, a very valid question, we surplus things, and then what happens to it? So this is what happened to your mowers. And you can see that we had 2 bidders, and you can see what each one bid, the total amount that we received. It looks like 13, almost 1,400 on one of them, about 18 on the other. So that's what we got for the mowers that y'all surplus.
Well, almost sold for big money, didn't it?
And the house is actually advertised now. I don't know, unless Fiona can remember the dates. I don't ever remember the closing dates and stuff, so we'll do the same, you know, as that progresses further. Let you know what happens on it also.
And thank you for sending that to me. I passed it on to the people that expressed interest directly to me, so.
Okay. The public library has requested board appointments. The board appoint one person and reappoint another person to the Effingham County Library Board, and they've been so kind as to give you those names of who they'd like to reappoint and appoint. So if y'all so choose to do that, we can put this on an agenda to have y'all do it. If you would like other people, obviously we can. So I don't know if y'all want to look at this a little bit more and let us know if these are the names you want to put on there, or if you want.
Are we required to advertise?
For the hospital, for the library?
Yeah. I mean, if it's a board appointment.
I don't think we're required to advertise for any of them.
I don't, but it's been our policy.
Yeah.
You mean advertise for people that are looking to fill these?
A lot of times,
Yeah, we have
He's advertised
because we
right
need to
now.
find people, but they're asking for one lady to be reappointed, and they're specifically asking for another person. We could take their recommendation, or we could advertise.
Apparently somebody who's trying to keen interest in the library.
Good for me. I was just asking.
Yeah, I would think the answer is we're under no obligation to advertise, although that has been the policy of the board in the past. So if y'all are comfortable with these people, we'll put it on the agenda as this, or if you'd like us to advertise, or whatever you, again, we just received this letter asking that this be done.
I'm personally comfortable with these people.
Yeah, probably on the next agenda.
Okay, we'll stick this on the next agenda then. You have a letter in here, this very next one, it's initiation of this section 106 process for GDOT maintenance. This is a resurfacing project that GDOT is doing on State Route 21 that begins with railroad tracks that go into Plant McIntosh, across 21 just north of Rankin. It goes basically around the bypass to just north of Springfield. It's 9 or 10 miles worth of resurfacing. And it's just a standard process that in the environmental document, they have to notify the section 106 for historic properties. So if y'all want to read through that, it's very enlightening. There is, the next thing in here is a webinar that ACCG did on House Bill 170, which is that transportation, I think exactly what it's called, Transportation Funding Act. Yeah, Transportation Funding Act of 2015. I don't know if anybody actually got to see this. It was at 4 o'clock on one afternoon. So they actually sent the slides that they used for this particular presentation that they did. There's not a tremendous amount of information in here, but there is some information on that particular bill. Obviously, it continues to go through and progress. It's made it through committee at this point. Any further questions on House Bill 170? I presume y'all are all getting updates and so forth. Locks allowed on the private access easements in the past, we had some discussions on this, and the board asked for other municipalities' ordinances. There are a few of those attached here that George has come up with, how other people handle those. So if y'all want to take a look at those and see the way others do it, Bryan County, Bullock County looks like. Others. And then there's just a flyer in for the 2015 Taste of Effingham. It will be held Thursday, March the 5th from 5 to 7. It's at our gym here on 119, just to let y'all know what's going on. And then the last thing that I have, I was actually just given this today, so I'll be honest with you, I haven't really read through it, but I think the gist of this is Camden County is pursuing this spaceport for some sort of privatized NASA type thing, or I guess with the ideas of launch rockets. And they have asked for letters of support from other neighboring local governments. So they would like us to write a letter supporting their efforts to get this privatized spaceport. And again, I had Mr. Herb handed me this today, and I have not yet read it. So unless somebody has an objection to it, we'll come up with some sort of letter of support, put it on y'all's next agenda, and you can vote on it if you so choose. But I don't think they're asking for us to do anything other than support their efforts.
Just support.
That's all.
That's the plane that they can actually take off. Richard Branson. And then you want to put on that side. All the money, but it would sure help their economy. All right. That it?
Yes, sir.
I only had one thing that I wanted to mention. In a conversation I had with Fox, we were talking about different ideas and things we'd like to do to help improve getting some information out to the public about some of the positive things that the county commission has done, because we feel like we've been able to get a lot of things accomplished. And I contacted Karen Tankersley, publisher of the Herald, and asked about the possibility of us having a column such kind of similar to what Jack Hill and John Burns have,
that we write, where we're able to get our message directly out on some things on a recurring basis. And she is retiring, but did talk to the person that's going to be taking her place and verified back to me that they'd be glad for us to do that on a monthly basis, once a month, and just to get with Patrick about the size of the column and words and all that. So I sent you a text about that, but we'll get together and hopefully get that started. So we'll have staff write something for it.
Also put his picture in there.
That should be good.
In your publication.
We appreciate that.
I put Reddy's picture and some for the ladies.
Oh, don't give him the big head. I think it's a good idea.
Anything to help tell the citizens what's going on? Is it positive? That's all I have.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm ready.
Where do we stand? Phil sent a document for the recreation board. Has anybody looked at it, got comments?
I looked at it a little bit.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, that's what I got into her. I'd asked Stephanie to send that to each of y'all. I don't know if she did or not, but if not, I think you get to.
You sent the...
Oh, Phil sent it? You sent it to everybody?
No. What are you talking about?
The changes to the ordinance of the
recreation board. You had one that somebody else had done.
Oh, no, we've actually rewritten ours.
No, I haven't. I think there was a draft that I saw.
Yeah, we have a rewrite to our own ordinance. I didn't get that sent out. If y'all haven't gotten it, I think maybe Stephanie didn't get a chance to do it. It was sometime late last week.
Yeah, some of the conversation about it, I was like, if nothing else, even if we do a skeleton draft right now that kind of just mirrors what we are currently actually doing, and then improve on it, that I do think we just need to do it quickly and get something.
I'm going to email it right now. If y'all can all take a look at it, it's pretty short, about 2 pages long. I'd like to get that on our next agenda for y'all's approval.
Well, do you want to have any conversation about the recreation project?
We can, if you'd like to talk about
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about where we were with our proposal.
Waiting on directions from the board as to how y'all would like to proceed. We obtained an initial proposal for everything. We then went back and obtained another one for only doing a master plan schematic design to get us to that point. So there's any number of ways we can do this. I would not advise that y'all simply take a proposal of our consultant that we have been working on just because of the numbers on it. I think we need to at least re-competitively bid this thing in some fashion, which is why staff had a conversation with them to at least obtain a master plan with the thought of maintaining some continuity. So if it is rebid competitively and they are not the low bidders, that some of that master planning process that you already did is kept through that process, meaning they did do a layout, a graphical layout before we added the last 2 properties to it. We need to get a new one that incorporates all 4 properties actually at this point and how that would look. And then there's varying states of how we can do it. I think one of the things Joanna alluded to is there are some parts that we can do engineering-wise internally if we hire an additional person. That would alleviate some of the dollars off of it. With the only thought being that normally I know that I advocate this, that we compete against the private sector, but in this case it's all going to recreation. Any dollar we save would be more than we would put into the project. We hold the budget, the roughly $6 million y'all approved, actually the board that. And that if we save a dollar, we put it into the facility. In other words, we're telling you we want 5 fields in a gym, so on and so forth, but maybe we can get 5 fields, a gym, and a soccer field, out of the first phase. So if the board's amenable to that, the only reason I would really suggest trying to go down this road of cost savings is to put back in the facility.
We'll just need to have it presented to us, like the various options. Yeah, we can't.
Well, I think the next step is you've got the authorization on the budget to hire the engineers. See just be sure that the person that we hire is capable of taking a project like that and running with it if that's the direction we need to go.
And that we're not holding the project up for some long period of time, because we're told we're not.
Full disclosure, if you wanted me to do it, you're gonna be waiting a while. So that's why it'd be pivotal to have somebody in here that can do at least 85% of it. I can get another 15%. But if we can do that, it would definitely save some money. And again, I'm not suggesting that we knock that off the bottom line of the budget. I'm suggesting we put it back into the project.
Put it back in the project.
Yes, sir.
18 to 24 months from now, we want to see phase one. Or I would.
To deliver that for you, yes, sir.
Okay. I'm good. Anybody else?
We got executive session?
Yeah, Frank, something.
We'll be a short one.
It'll be a very, very short one.
Very, very short.
Give me that.
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session, to discuss personnel property and litigation.
Second.
All in favor? We have before you the executive session minutes from February 3rd. Commissioner Loper wants to be voting on that because he wasn't here.
Did Commissioner?
And let the record show that Commissioner Floyd has not returned. He had to leave to go to work. Still have a quorum, and still take action. We'll have a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Any other business to be brought before this board? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? None opposed. We stand